Chapter 587. Han Fei could see that the two of them were eager to learn. In fact, the only thing they lacked in this problem was the guidance of teachers. Han Fei didn't believe that the cloud-soaring town didn't have any decent teachers at the school. Zhang Fan sighed slightly. Senior brother, my cloud-soaring town has been weak for a long time. Since the talent of the cloud-soaring town declined 100 years ago, it has always ranked last among the 36 towns. Because of this, all the people with some strength in our town have gone out. Some went to the level 3 fishery, and some went to the unknown place, but in the end, maybe it's because of the gap in strength. Too many people have died, and there are not enough students and teachers, not only in the area of saber practice, but also in many combat skills. In fact, the level of teachers is not very high. Han Fei wondered, didn't you say that your cloud-soaring town has a new mayor? Don't you plan to cultivate talents? Su Fu smiled bitterly. You don't know this. Our mayor didn't come to this exchange competition. It is said that he is recovering from his injuries, which seem to have been recovering for more than 10 years. Zhang Fan hurriedly said, but our mayor is also a good man. When he took office, he brought a lot of resources to our cloud-soaring town, including hundreds of combat skills and cultivation methods. However, the mayor can't teach us in person. We need to cultivate on our own. Han Fei was speechless. Isn't there the president? The president doesn't teach you? Are the talent resources in your town so scarce? The president has tried his best to teach us, but because there are too many people, we can't ask the president every question, or the president won't be able to answer all of them. Zhang Fan shrugged. The weaker we are, the weaker we are. Our cloud-soaring town was actually not weak, but 100 years ago, for some reason, a large number of talents died, so we gradually declined. But during this period, there were some excellent talents, but they didn't have time to teach us. Han Fei asked, are there so few peak-level dangling fishers? Su Fu nodded. Pathetically few. Han Fei thought for a while. What quality of combat skills and cultivation methods do you cultivate? Some of them are spirit level, but most of them are demon level low quality and mid quality. There are few high quality ones, and even fewer heaven level ones. Han Fei frowned. Nobody from the other towns helped you? Zhang Fan said, the cloud-soaring town can rise. Our generation is determined to cultivate and return home to serve our country. This is also the reason why only 100 of us are going to the unknown land this time. The rest of us need to gradually improve the education in Soaring Cloud Town. Su Fu nodded. Yes, compared with 10 years ago, the strength of the cultivators in Cloud Soaring Town has improved a lot. We have been making progress all the time. I believe that in another 10 years, we will be able to compete for the second last place. Han Fei was speechless. Was there a big difference between the second last place and the first last place? Han Fei patted their shoulders. I sympathize with you, but I can't help you. The rise of a town was not something that could be achieved with the efforts or help of one or two people. But I can give you some advice. Zhang Fan and Su Fu. Han Fei blinked and said, to make money. What can't money buy? Earn money? Han Fei curled his lips. That's because you don't have the courage. Sometimes you just need to spend money to cultivate some of the most outstanding talents first. Anyway, I can't help you with this matter, so it's not up to you. Okay, I'm going to cultivate. With that, Han Fei jumped up the tree. Zhang Fan and Su Fu hurriedly thanked him. Thank you for your guidance, senior brother. Han Fei's perception of the cloud-soaring town was that the education policy and resource planning were wrong, but it had nothing to do with him. At first, Han Fei just remembered that Lin Miao Miao was from the cloud-soaring town and the fiery dragon town was too arrogant, so he helped her. But what happened between him and Lin Miao Miao was only between the two of them and had nothing to do with others. Now, Lin Miao Miao was long dead. Han Fei thought he had avenged her. The only pity was that she died so early, which was a little regretful. Maybe he felt guilty, but as time went by, the guilt gradually faded. He didn't want to do something stupid, like saving a town alone. He didn't have that ability. After Han Fei climbed up the tree, he saw Olbai looking at him. Olbai scoffed. You're not that good yourself. but you've learned to teach others? Han Fei was speechless. They came to ask for advice and called me senior brother. I can't refuse them, can I? Old Bai shook his head slightly. 3 fools. Do you really think the Cloud Soaring Town is not good enough? The Cloud Soaring Town used to rank in the top 3 of the 36 towns, even better than the Wind Thunder Town. Do you think they are all brainless? Han Fei was stunned. If they were so strong, how did they end up like this? Old Bai sneered. What else can they do? They offended someone. Han Fei was speechless. If they offend someone, they will be punished along with the whole town? Old Bai said leisurely. It's the same as the decline of the Thug Academy. They're much smarter than you. They're just waiting for an opportunity to make a breakthrough. You, Jiyun, mind your own business. You have a lot of skills, but you're not good at it. You'll know how big the problem is in the future. Han Fei laughed awkwardly and continued to climb up the tree trunk to study the spirit-gathering scripture, although he was surprised that the whole town was so miserable. However, Old Bai obviously knew better than him, and he didn't have the mood to meddle in other people's business. What troubled Han Fei now was that Old Bai said that he had learned a lot of things, which was a big problem. This was because after he developed this saber technique, a relatively big problem appeared in his data, and that was his upper limit of spiritual energy had broken through again. Logically speaking, breaking through was a good thing. It meant that there was still potential that had yet to be unearthed. But the problem was that Han Fei didn't know how much potential he had now, just like his data at this moment. Owner Han Fei level 39, Advanced Dangling Fisher, Spiritual Energy, 128526-6501, Mind Power, 1299/1299 range, 9,999 meters Spiritual Heritage, LV5, High Grade Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish level 36, Main Art, Void Breaking Technique, Volume 4 of Void Fishing, Demon level, Divine Quality. His upper limit of spiritual energy broke through the barrier of 6,499 points. Although it only increased by 2 points, it meant that he couldn't break through to become a peak-level dangling fisher yet. But there was a problem. What was the upper limit of spiritual energy? Was it related to combat skills? Wasn't the upper limit of spiritual energy related to physique and the strength of meridians? However, just as he comprehended the invincible saber light, this stage was actually broken. It was broken in a baffling manner. Because of this, and because Old Bai kept saying that he had learned a lot of things, Han Fei felt that he might really have learned a lot of things that didn't meet the standard, which led to the current situation. But Han Fei was not in a hurry. Since he couldn't make a breakthrough, he would practice hard. He didn't mind spending half a year to stabilize himself and learn arrays. The next day, everything was normal. There were also about 800 games. Zhang Xuanyu appeared and won easily, and Xia Xiaochan and Lu Renquang didn't have their turn. On the 3rd day, Lu Renquang appeared, and Xia Xiaochan didn't have her turn. The 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day. On the 7th day, it was Xia Xiaochan's turn, and she won easily. This preliminary round had just ended, and a total of 5,200 people had won. There was no team battle, no second chance. At this moment, in the arena, the mayor of the Wind Thunder Town was speaking. All the students who have advanced, you have come up through layers of selection. You are the talents of the 36 towns, the young experts who have walked out of hundreds of millions of people. I am proud of you. Clap, clap, clap. Off the field, there was a round of applause, and everyone listened attentively. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, "We have passed the first round of the competition. The rest of you, gather in the arena tomorrow morning." At that time, the defeated students, the spectators, and the audience are not allowed to enter again. The Wind Thunder Arena will be closed to the public from now on. Many locals of the Wind Thunder Town knew that this was the case every time. After the first round, the second round would not be open to the public. But those students were all confused. Why don't we watch the battle? Well, will there be no more chances after one defeat? Why don't we watch the next round? The locals had no objection. The students were confused, and the teachers were solemn and even sighed. Han Fei wondered. Han Fei wondered, "Sir, why do I feel that something is wrong? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes, it doesn't make sense. Isn't it an exchange competition? Why aren't we allowed to continue watching? Wenren shook her head slightly. It's an exchange competition and a selection competition. When the first battle begins, the selection has already begun. The author said, I'm going back to my hometown today. I won't say much. Keep updating. End of this chapter. Chapter 588. That night, Xiao Zhan took Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan back to the Blue Sea town, along with the ghost-eyed giant crocodile and the 1,000,000 pieces of jewelry that Han Fei bought. It was the same for the other major towns. Those who came to observe and learn, but failed in the preliminary round, all went home. These students didn't know what was going on and were still asking. Luo Xiaobai asked, Teacher, what does the so-called preliminary round mean? Why are those who failed in the preliminary round not allowed to watch it? I don't know why, but I just feel that something is wrong. Han Fei frowned. More than wrong. Half of the people have gone home. Are they really here to watch the preliminary round? Lu Rinquang asked. Will it be bloody later? Zhang Xuanyu smiled. That's impossible. They're all seedlings going to the unknown lands. So how could it be bloody? Wenren thought for a moment, rubbed her head, and said, because the next round will be very difficult. Besides, there will be nothing to appreciate. Huh? Everyone was stunned. Very difficult? Nothing to appreciate? Is it going to be a secret realm? Old Bai said, stop guessing. What do you think we, the presidents and mayors, have held a meeting for a whole day? You'll know tomorrow. Han Fei grinned. Mr. President, please tell us. Old Bai stroked his beard and said mysteriously, there's no need to tell us. Because I know what will happen next, and I don't need to tell you. I don't have to tell you what I don't know. Han Fei was stunned. But you don't know either, Mr. President? Old Bai twitched his mouth. To be precise, only the mayors of the 36 towns know. However, the 36 of them are having a party together tonight. They are actually spying on each other. Who do you think will tell you? Everyone, Han Fei murmured. I have a bad feeling. Lu Kwang nodded. Not you, but we all have. The next day, the Wind Thunder Arena was empty. The giant arena that could hold 200,000 people now had less than 6,000 people, including the teachers, students, presidents, and mayors. How could not be empty? At this moment, there was no distinction between which academy they were from and which town they belonged to. There were 158 people in the Blue Sea town in total, which meant that 142 people had been defeated and returned home. At this moment, at the entrance of the arena, Lu Rinquang and Lin Xingmu were staring at each other. Lin Xingmu said leisurely, Brother Lu, you and I are now allies. Why do you still hold grudges from the past? Lu Rinquang said fiercely, If I fight you again, I can beat you into a fish head. Lin Xingmu smiled and said, I know, so I won't fight you anymore. Li Hani still hated Han Fei. If Han Fei was here, he would run to the other side. Anyway, he wouldn't meet Han Fei face to face. Xiang Zhuo already knew that she couldn't beat Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu, so she didn't take them as her targets. As a result, it moved closer to them. Xiang Zhuo asked, Han Fei, tell me what's inside your knife. I've thought about it over and over again, but nothing seems right. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Sister, is this the time to ask questions? Do you know that this is a very difficult match? Do you know what this competition is about? Han Fei shrugged. I don't know. At this moment, Wenren shouted, Let's go, it's time to enter the arena. Everyone get ready. Countless students poured in, and their hearts were in turmoil. Judging from yesterday's situation, today's competition would not be simple. After a moment, when everyone entered the arena, they were all frozen. Everyone looked at each other with a dumbfounded look on their faces. Han Fei and the others were also dumbfounded. What does this mean? In the huge arena, there were more than 5,000 tables and chairs, filling up the entire arena. On each table, there was a fish skin and a pen. Han Fei rubbed his eyes. If he guessed right, this was a F***king test? Luo Xiaobai asked, What is this? Xia Xiaochan asked, Are you writing something? Zhang Xuanyu said leisurely, It must be writing cultivation insights. This thing is simple. With my self-created 9-layered waves in Furious Sea, this is not difficult at all. Luren Kwong nodded. Really? Then I should be able to do it too. I think I can create a school of gluttony. Han Fei couldn't help but roll his eyes at these two. How could it be so simple? Insights and whatnot were all theoretical things. The test couldn't be all about theories. At this moment, the mayors of the 36 towns were sitting high up. The presidents were scattered in the audience seats, and there were hundreds of hanging fishers on the field, wandering around. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, "All students, please take your seats according to your number." A hanging fisher shouted, "Students from the Sky Marshall Town, come to me. Students from the Wind Thunder Town, come to me. Students from a Million Gold Town, come to me." Soon, someone called the mayor of the Blue Sea Town. Han Fei and the others could only bite the bullet and go to their seats. When they got closer, they found that the fish skins on the table were all upside down, as if they didn't want people to see the contents in advance. "Sit down and don't move. Wait for the mayor's order. No turning over the fish skins. You're not allowed to whisper or send voice transmissions to each other." Han Fei was speechless. Isn't this the same as an exam? Why do I still need to take an exam in this world? The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, "Today, we will not compete in strength or fishing. Let's take an exam. But everyone must remember that this exam is very strict. Once someone is found to be whispering to each other, or spiritual probing, their exam results will be immediately invalidated and they will have to go home. They will enjoy the same treatment as those students who failed." Everyone couldn't help but take a breath. That's King scary. It's just an exam. Is it necessary to be so strict? The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said lightly, "Let me be frank. In this exam, no one is allowed to practice favoritism. But if you're found, you will be disqualified. Students, this exam is related to your future. You must take it seriously. Don't be careless." Suddenly, a voice sounded in Han Fei's mind. It was from Old Bai. "Remember, no matter what, no cheating, no perception, no voice transmission." Han Fei looked up at the reaction of the others. They all seemed to have received the voice transmission. Maybe this was more convincing. Therefore, all the students were unprecedentedly steady at this moment. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, "The exam will start in 100 minutes. It will last for 3 hours. At that time, you're not allowed to write or whisper to each other. If anyone violates the rules at the last moment, they will also be disqualified and their results will be invalidated on the spot." Han Fei couldn't help taking a deep breath. F***CK, this exam won't be easy. With a hidden fisher and a hanging fisher supervising, a group of dangling fisher students wouldn't even dare to say a word. 100 minutes later, the mayor of the Wind Thunder Town announced, "I announce the start of the exam. Please write down on the back of the test paper where you are from, your college, your name, your profession, your spiritual beast, contractual spiritual beast, and your level. You must write down your multiple professions. Now, you can start to answer the questions." Han Fei immediately picked up the pen. From Thug Academy, Blue Sea Town. Name, Han Fei. Spiritual beast, spirit swallowing fish. Profession, soul warrior, spirit gatherer. Contractual spiritual beast, exotic mantis shrimp. As for Little Gold, he thought for a while and decided not to write it down. Who knew which category Little Gold belonged to? Little Fatty. Han Fei didn't want to write it down either. Can't I have some trump cards on my sleeves when I write it? Although Little Fatty had been exposed, if he didn't say it, who would know what characteristics it had? After writing, Han Fei opened the big fish skin test paper that covered the entire table. At a glance, there were 108 questions in total. Wow, there are a lot of questions. Han Fei immediately looked at the first question of the test paper, and then his eyes widened. Wow. Immediately, Han Fei gasped hard. Not only Han Fei, but 80% of the people present also gasped. Han Fei was speechless. Are these King questions for humans? The first question was as follows. Fishing in the level 1 fishery. The fishing hook is 12 meters into the water, and a spirit-swallowing fish is caught. A junior dangling fisher uses 3 points of spiritual energy, and the spirit-swallowing fish struggles with 198 kilograms of strength. How many scales does this spirit-swallowing fish have? Han Fei's blood froze. How the F asterisk CK would I know? How could there be such a crazy question in this world? Who the hell came up with these questions? Come out. I'll never beat you to death. Why don't you make a multiple choice question? Why don't you make a fill-in-the-blank question? F asterisk CK. Han Fei scratched his head, skipped it, and looked at the second question. You enter a secret realm and find a beautiful girl / handsome young man who is sealed. All it takes is a deep kiss from you to wake her / him up. However, as soon as you wake up, you are stabbed to death by the other party. Why? F asterisk CK. Han Fei scratched his head again. He subconsciously turned his head and looked at Zhang Xuanyu, not far away. He found that the outstanding hottie who said the questions were easy was also pulling his hair at this moment. The spiritual energy in his body was unstable, and he was about to lose control. The first update, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 589. The spiritual energy in the Wind Thunder Arena was about to explode, mainly because these students were about to lose control of themselves because of these questions. Han Fei immediately closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then, he looked ahead, and immediately a hanging fissure stared at him. Han Fei thought to himself, I can't perceive or transmit my voice. Why are you looking at me? In Han Fei's sight, Luren Quang was clutching his belly with a dumbfounded look. On the other hand, Xia Xiaochan and Luo Xiaobai were actually writing. Xia Xiaochan thought for a while and then moved her pen. Luo Xiaobai was even more perverted. She didn't stop writing and just kept writing. It seemed that these questions were not difficult for her at all. Han Fei immediately took a breath. I'm a heavenly talent. How can I be a bad student? Look at the third question. Third question, you are fishing on the sea and meet a young man / girl on the way. You regret not meeting him, her earlier, but you just met by chance. It's late now, and the other party suddenly asks for a drink. What does the other party want to drink? Han Fei tried to take another breath. Obviously, this kind of question was not made by a good person. Maybe it was a psycho. Drink? What would he drink? Drink water. However, according to the crazy method of setting the questions, drinking water was definitely wrong. What was in the sea? Spiritual fruit? Tree sap? No. Han Fei immediately vetoed it. Why the F asterisk CK would I regret not meeting a little girl on the sea earlier? What's her purpose? Han Fei was immediately sure that this little girl must have ulterior motives. She either wanted to rob or kill him for his goods. After thinking for a moment, Han Fei wrote on the answer, drink blood. Han Fei searched his body. This was the only thing he could drink. Maybe the girl had some weird hobbies? Fourth question, you found a treasure secret realm and found that there were 2 divine weapons on the left and right sides of the secret realm. One divine weapon had an amazing momentum, emitting billowing murderous intent. This divine weapon was sparkling and translucent, exuding an extraordinary charm. But you can only choose one. Which one would you choose? Han Fei grinned. This was easy. Han Fei wrote, only fools make choices. Adults want both. Immediately afterward, the questions became more and more strange. One question asked, if you meet a small fish tied in the ocean. Behind you, 100 people are fishing, completely unaware of this. Right now, you have a secret realm to hide in. Would you choose to hide in the secret realm or swim back to warn everyone to escape? Be careful. If you go back, you might not be able to escape the small fish tide. Speechless, Han Fei immediately replied, why should I escape? Is a small fish tide that rare? I will definitely carve out a path for myself. All of a sudden, a clanging sound was heard, and a youth was picked up. The hanging fisher directly threw him out of the field and sneered. Triumph Town, Su Shu, used a secret eye technique. He is disqualified from the exam, and his results are invalid. Su Shu shouted, wait, I haven't seen it yet. I can still take the test. Give me another chance. All eyes fell on Su Shu. The latter had already been dragged out of the arena. At this moment, everyone was still looking away from him. Suddenly, another person was mentioned. A hanging fisher carried a girl and said, Red Moon Town, Ning Kai, peeped at you in the chaos. He is disqualified from the exam, and his results are invalid. The girl, Ning Kai, exclaimed, I just did it subconsciously. I didn't see anything. President, BEM. The girl was also thrown out and dragged out of the field. Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. Do they have to be so strict? How could she see a flower with just a glance? The audience was horrified. They all lowered their heads and took the exam in silence. 1 hour later, Han Fei found that not all the questions were unanswerable. He really didn't know how to answer some of them, but he could answer some of them easily, especially one of all the questions. If you encounter a pirate ship at sea, the other party outnumbers you, but as long as you hand over your sea-swallowing seashell, they won't kill you. What would you do? Han Fei immediately sneered and wrote, I won't hand over my sea-swallowing seashell. But for the sake that they don't intend to kill me, I will rob them and then spare their lives. As he answered the questions, Han Fei found that he didn't know how to answer half of them. But it didn't matter. There were 3 short answer questions at the end. However, when Han Fei saw the questions, he was stunned again. The first question, you sneezed again, and you sneezed again. Why? Han Fei was speechless. I'm a *king dangling fisher. Why would I sneeze? So Han Fei wrote, dangling fishers don't sneeze, or someone misses me. The second question, if you manage a team of 100 people, you can trust all of them. What's the first thing you do with them? Why? This time, Han Fei grinned. Of course it's robbing. In a place like the ocean, the fastest way to become stronger is to rob. Han Fei listed a bunch of reasons and expressed his satisfaction. The third question, there are 2 completely enclosed secret realms, one with 3 pill furnaces and the other with mechanisms to control these 3 pill furnaces. Now, you enter these 2 secret realms once and then judge which mechanism controls these 3 pill furnaces. When he saw this question, Han Fei was immediately amused. It was a 3-point question. Wonderful. It only took Han Fei 5 minutes to write the answer. Then, he looked back at the questions that he didn't know how to answer. However, he couldn't even understand the questions. How would he answer them? When Han Fei raised his head again, he found that Luren Kuang had fallen asleep. Zhang Xuanyu held his chin with one hand and held a pen in his mouth, lost in thought. Xia Xiaochan was swinging her legs, relaxed and relaxed. If there was no one around, she would probably hum a song. Luo Xiaobai had already put down the pen, closed her eyes, and drifted off. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. They're all amazing. Han Fei still thought that he had to answer as many questions as he could in an exam. Whether it was right or not, he had to fill up the test paper first. Although he was an explorer on the sea in his previous life, he had participated in many examinations. So, he wrote guess on the first question and wrote because the girl is a neat freak on the second question. After Han Fei finished writing, only half an hour had passed. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town suddenly said, Time's up. Collect the test papers. After collecting the test papers, everyone can get up and leave. At this moment, someone panicked. Suddenly, many teenagers in the field were picked up by many hanging fishers. Ning Lanjin, Gao Wu, sent a voice transmission. Disqualified from the exam and invalid results. Fiery Dragon Town, Wu Gang, sent a voice transmission. Disqualified from the exam and invalid results. Sea Source Town, Divine Billow Town. In an instant, 13 people were caught. Han Fei was speechless. What a bunch of *king muggles. The hidden fishers were sitting on the top. Send a voice transmission? After a while, the test papers were collected. Immediately, countless wails rang out in the entire arena. What the hell are those questions? Except for the multiple choice questions, I can't answer anything else. Oh no, I'm a disgrace to the town. I can't answer them at all. It's too difficult. Who the hell made the questions? This is too disgusting. Is this a question that a human can answer correctly? I feel that I'm hopeless. I'm going to be eliminated. I can't understand the questions at all, right? Someone cried sadly. I just want to know, why do I need to know how many scales a spirit-swallowing fish has? Zhang Xuanyu asked, Fei Fei, have you answered the questions? They're all traps. I can't answer these questions. Han Fei was stunned. Haven't you already answered them? Zhang Xuanyu scoffed. Of course not. I can't answer them at all. How can I answer them? Han Fei was taken aback. Then what did you do just now? You laughed just now. Zhang Xuanyu froze for a moment. Did I? Han Fei nodded. You did. Lu Renquang opened his eyes in a daze. What? Have you finished the exam? Can you answer them? Han Fei asked. Haven't you finished? Lu Renquang scratched his belly. When I saw those questions, I felt dizzy and fell asleep. Han Fei didn't want to talk to him and quickly asked Xia Xiaochan and Luo Xiaobai, how about it? Did you answer them? Xia Xiaochan nodded. Yes, but there seem to be a lot of answers to these questions. I don't know which one is right. Han Fei couldn't help but say, I want to know the second question. Why do you want to be stabbed to death after kissing someone in a secret realm? Xia Xiaochan said boldly. Of course you want to be stabbed to death. She is not in love with you. Why did you kiss her? I will stab her too. Han Fei covered his head. Forget it. Pretend I didn't ask. However, Luo Xiaobai replied solemnly, there are several possibilities. This is a trap. That person is actually not sleeping at all. She's just waiting for someone to come and will stab them when they are least alert. The second is that the person is deliberately sleeping. However, her plan is ruined. The third is that the person is already very old because she is asleep. She can't accept this fact and the age difference, so she stabs the person to death. The fourth is, Han Fei and the others were dumbfounded. Luo Xiaobai gave a total of 9 answers. Was this something a human being would do? Dumb, dumb, dumb. Before Han Fei and the others finished talking, there was a loud noise in the field. Someone hit the table with his head and broke it. Someone hit his chest with a sledgehammer, as if venting the anger in his heart. Someone stomped on the ground with his feet, as if he were dancing. For a time, the examination room became a large scene of self-mutilation. The scene was very spectacular and bloody. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 590. When they walked out of the examination room, more than 5,000 people looked gloomy as if they had lost their parents. At this moment, Lu Renquang was chasing Luo Xiaobai, asking her what the answer to the first question was. Han Fei pricked up his ears and listened. Luo Xiaobai said, I remember when I was a fisherman, the first lesson I took was about spirit-swallowing fish. Spirit-swallowing fish live between 10 to 30 meters above the sea surface. The deeper the water, the smaller the fish. On the contrary, the fish at the top are larger. The largest spirit-swallowing fish is no more than half a meter long, and the water depth is 12 meters. But this is not the key to the judgment. A junior dangling fisher's use of 3 points of spiritual energy is equivalent to a junior fishing master's use of 80 to 100 points of spiritual energy. The fishing force is about 200 kilograms, which means that this fish is more than 1.5 feet long, which means that this is a large mutant spirit-swallowing fish with a body length of up to 1 meter. The scales of the spirit-swallowing fish are uniform and almost uniform in size. It can be estimated that there are about 25 to 30 scales in a circle. So, excluding the fish head and tail, it's about 1.5 feet long. So the number of scales is between 1,250 and 1,500. Taking the middle value, I wrote 1,375. Everyone. Han Fei's eyes widened. Are you a devil? How can you calculate this? Xia Xiaochan was surprised. So many? I wrote 500. Han Fei squinted at her. How did you calculate it? Xia Xiaochan said indifferently. I calculated according to your spiritual Bi Xiaobai, which I have seen the most. Han Fei was speechless. So, you didn't use your brain at all, did you? Xia Xiaochan said indifferently. Just answer it casually. Anyway, whether I can answer it or not, I have to go to the unknown place. So what if I answer it wrong? How could I not go? Lu Renquang immediately praised. That makes sense. That's what I was thinking just now. So, when I found that I couldn't understand the questions, I went to sleep. Luo Xiaobai shook her head and said solemnly, It shouldn't be so simple. This exam is obviously a kind of selection. Although the questions are strange, it seems to test our comprehensive thinking ability. Zhang Xuanyu looked dumbfounded. Why do you think it is a test for us? This is clearly making things difficult for us. Luo Xiaobai analyzed. Actually, according to my calculations, the first 10 questions are the most difficult. Moreover, he couldn't figure out the way at all. When I was doing the questions, I saw a lot of people collapse and give up. But the hidden fissures above were observing. Obviously, they are testing our temperament. Everyone, Luo Xiaobai continued. Of the 108 questions, 50 are optional. These questions were all about a person's ability to judge and analyze in different environments, different situations, and when interacting with people. This should be the focus of this exam. Zhang Xuanyu immediately said, I've written this. I've written it in a good way and fully displayed my noble character. Luo Xiaobao rolled her eyes at Zhang Xuanyu. No, these questions shouldn't be asking us to do good deeds. The purpose of the exam was to select people, and the destination of the selection was to go to an unknown place. The unknown place was much more dangerous than the level 3 fishery. It was already extremely dangerous in the level 3 fishery, and countless people died every day. How could the unknown place be better? Han Fei immediately said, So, as long as you follow your heart, it's okay? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes. Han Fei was overjoyed. Huh, that's what I wrote. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up. Me too. Zhang Xuanyu's face suddenly sank. What else? Luo Xiaobai continued to analyze. There are 45 questions, all of which are directional questions. For example, the judgment of a crisis, the way to deal with a battle, the management and distribution of personnel, the use of terrain, the choice of weapons, the standard of the use of money, personal personality. These 45 questions are completely messy. There are many aspects involved, just like the captain assessment. Han Fei blinked. Personnel management? I said I'm going to rob with a team. Is this a good leader? There was no management. Wouldn't everything be fine as long as they listened to his commands? Xiao Xiaochan looked envious. Xiaobai, you are really awesome. Zhang Xuanyu nodded repeatedly. If only I could send a voice transmission. Luren Kuang sighed. I don't want to answer the questions. However, Xia Xiaochan said, Then Xiaobai, the third last question, why do you sneeze? With that said, Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei and said, Someone said that if you sneeze, it must mean that someone is thinking of you, right? Luo Xiaobai asked, Who said that? Cough, cough. Han Fei immediately interrupted. Well, let's go. Let's take a test. Why we need to check the answers? Luo Xiaobai said, This question is actually very simple. If you sneeze, then there are only two situations. And the causes of these two situations are completely different. Han Fei couldn't help pricking up his ears. What's the situation? Luo Xiaobai explained. First of all, if you sneeze 3 times in a row, it means that someone in the water wants to hurt you. Huh? Han Fei couldn't help asking why. Luo Xiaobai was like a high and mighty genius, explaining to a group of bad students, because dangling fishers don't sneeze. Once they sneeze, it means that you are poisoned. If you're not in the water, sneezing after you are poisoned is meaningless. You can be poisoned to death. Why do you sneeze? Only in the water, a sneeze will cause a lot of water or the breath in the body to dissipate. 3 sneezes in a row are enough to exhaust the air in the body. Although dangling fishers won't choke to death, they will expose too many weaknesses at this time, and it is easy to give someone a chance to kill you. So, if you sneeze 3 times in a row, it means that someone wants to hurt you, and it is in the water. Everyone, Han Fei couldn't help but look up at the sky. Damn, is this the world of the top students? Can you even analyze it like this? At this time, Old Bai ran away again. He must have gone to mark the papers. Wenren coughed twice and wanted to say something, but she swallowed it back and just said, Let's go. Let's go back. The result will be out tomorrow. Xia Xiaochan said, Ms. Wenren, why don't you just say it? I think you can't stand it anymore. Wenren smiled contemptuously. There's nothing to say. You are either too smart or too stupid. Can't you be in the middle? Han Fei murmured. Apart from the top students and the bad students, there are only the weak students. You're neither good nor bad. I can tell that you're hopeless at first glance. Wenren Luren Kuang seemed to have forgotten about the exam. Let's go back and have meatball hot pot, shall we? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, Meatball hot pot? What's that? Luren Kuang chuckled. When I was dreaming just now, I dreamed that I bought dozens of different kinds of meatballs in the Tree Core City and threw them into the hot pot. They tasted especially good. Zhang Xuanyu was lost for words. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. You make it sound like you've eaten it. The next day, the examination room facilities of the Wind Thunder Arena finally disappeared. Many people heaved a long sigh of relief after seeing that the tables and chairs were gone. Yesterday, it was a hell-level exam. As a cultivator, fighting was the most comfortable. It was not suitable for them to do questions. Everybody was focused on the arena. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, "The results of yesterday's exam have been released. Most of the students did very well. The results have been sent to the colleges. You can ask your presidents. In an hour, we will have the third exam." Hiss. The audience gasped again. There's a F*King third exam? Someone was puzzled. Did very well? Are you kidding me? Someone exclaimed, is it possible that someone can even solve those kinds of questions? For a moment, nobody cared about what the third exam was going to be. They all surrounded their presidents. There was no need to surround the Thug Academy's side. There were only 7 people, including Old Bai and Wen Rinyu. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "President, how many points did I get? Did I pass?" Old Bai was taken aback. "Pass? What's that?" Han Fei hurriedly said, "It's a paper with 100 points. You can pass with 60 points. Old Bai looked at Han Fei as if he were a lunatic. "What are you thinking? You want to pass? You want to get 60 points? Why don't you go to heaven?" Han Fei, however, Old Bai suddenly changed the topic. If anyone must pass, Xiao Bai can be considered to have passed. His score seems to be more than 60 points. Everyone, Han Fei couldn't help but cover his head. A straight A student score is only more than 60 points. Am I F*King hopeless? Third update, asking for votes. I know about the brilliant list. That's why there are 10 updates on the first day. What I didn't expect was that I just said that if the monthly votes exceeded 2,000, I would add one more update. But the next day, I got double the monthly votes. I feel that I'll be useless in January. Forget it. Let's not take back what we said. The plan remains the same. I'll add more updates. Until I can't keep up with the writing. Well, I'm a man with more than 300,000 updates a month. End of this chapter. Chapter 591. After a while, Han Fei and the others learned that there were no scores in this exam. Why would I know scores? Because most of the questions had no accurate answers at all. It was just that these presidents and mayors needed to see what kind of examinees were through the questions. For example, Luo Xiaobai could even answer such perverted questions. When they were marking the papers, it really caused a stir. Han Fei asked, "President, there are no scores? Then what did you see?" Old Bai glanced at Han Fei strangely. "Don't shout. Among the 5 people, you and Zhang Xuanyu have the worst conclusions." Zhang Xuanyu immediately said, "That's impossible. Quang only answered 10 questions in total, and I answered 80 questions. Han Fei nodded quickly. "Yes, I answered all 108 questions. I don't believe I got 98 questions wrong." Old Bai took out a fish skin map and said, "Let me read it to you. The evaluation here is very objective and fair." Luo Xiaobai is extremely calm. She is extremely strict with herself and has a good grasp of details. She has a strong logical judgment and thinking ability. She is a natural leader. The only shortcoming is that she is very vengeful and will interfere with her judgment. Lu Quang is upright. Although he is quite lazy, he dares to take responsibility. This person is very stable and very suitable to be a law enforcer. Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu both cast a strange look at Lu Quang. "Are you kidding me? This guy got such an evaluation after a night's sleep?" Lu Quang muttered, "I don't want to be a law enforcer. I am also a person full of adventure." Old Bai rolled his eyes at him and continued, "Xia Xiaochan has a serious tendency to be violent and vengeful. But she is also compassionate, not good at communicating with others or getting along with others. Deep in her bones, she has a strong sense of justice. In addition, she has little common sense and is not very knowledgeable. She is a natural warrior." When Old Bai finished reading, he saw that Han Fei had already stopped Xia Xiaochan. "Don't be impulsive. Relax and put down the dagger." Xia Xiaochan was speechless. By the way, this clearly means that I am stupid, old by side. You are not stupid, but you have too little experience. If you grow up in the village for a long time, you will naturally be able to make up for these shortcomings. Han Fei suddenly thought of something. Olbai said did it mean that Xia Xiaochan didn't grow up in the village? Where did Xia Xiaochan grow up? Olbai continued. Zhang Xuanyu is cunning, eloquent, quick-witted, brave, and resourceful. However, this person is very selfish, completely indifferent to strangers, too selfish and vengeful. This kind of person can live for a long time. Zhang Xuanyu immediately said angrily, "It's fine at the beginning, but you're spouting nonsense at the end." Am I selfish? I'm extremely selfless. I make friends with a lot of people, especially girls. One Rinyu shouted, "Shut up. This is the final conclusion of 108 examiners. You are not allowed to refute it." Zhang Xuanyu thought to himself, "These 108 people are all stupid." Finally, Olbai looked at Han Fei deeply. "What do you think of yourself?" Han Fei blinked. "Me, brave, skillful, and resourceful?" Olbai sneered and continued to read. Han Fei, this person is extremely greedy, insidious, cunning, vengeful, inexplicably optimistic, and crazy. At the same time, he seems to be a bit of a psychopath, but fortunately, he is quick-witted. This person is a typical crazy adventurer. Han Fei. Zhang Xuanyu patted Han Fei on the shoulder. "Well, fortunately, this evaluation is much worse than mine. At least I am not a psychopath," Han Fei said angrily. "Who wrote this?" "President. As a teacher, who marks the paper? Can you show your sense of justice?" "I, Han Fei, am a psychopath? I am insidious and cunning. I am crazy." Olbai closed the fish skin, then stroked his beard and said leisurely, "Well, the evaluation doesn't matter. But it turns out that you are quite excellent. At least you don't have to worry about being eliminated." One Rinyu also said, "In particular, among the 5 of you, 4 of you receive the evaluation of vengeful. No wonder you are a team." Lu Rinquang asked, "Then should I also be vengeful?" Olbai scoffed. "You can't. Your personality is not good enough." Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai. "Since when did Xiaobai become vengeful?" Luo Xiaobai replied, "In theory, if cultivators fight with each other, if they don't retaliate immediately, the other party will become more aggressive. However, this will not affect my judgment." Olbai smiled and nodded. "Yes, this is a very good quality." Puff. Han Fei was speechless. "You call this excellent?" Olbai sneered. "What do you think? Whether they are greedy, evil, righteous, smart, perverted, or vengeful. They all have typical personal characteristics, indicating that these people must be very outstanding in some aspects. Although the evaluation is bad, do you think the word extreme comes for nothing? These evaluations themselves represent weight. Even Lu Rinquang, who has the most stable evaluation, has the word stable. Isn't it not easy?" Olbai paused. "Besides, on the ocean, only when you are ruthless will no one dare to mess with you. Whoever messes with you, screw them to death, understand? This is the good quality of excellence." Everyone, in fact, Olbai was right. Those who set up the fishing trial, the level 1 fishery, the level 2 fishery, and the level 3 fishery didn't care about the life and death of mortals. If they cared about life and death, why would they allow killing in the fishing trial? The road of cultivation was full of danger. Han Fei and the others had just finished reading. In some other towns, the presidents had begun to call the roll. Bao Boy has stepped out. Pei Hao stepped out. Wu Yizhou. The whole arena was full of names. Soon, more than 1,000 people had come out of the roll call. About half an hour later, the roll stopped. The president of the Sky Marshal Town said, "Those whose names are called can stay in the Wind Thunder Town for the time being. However, you are not allowed to enter the Wind Thunder Arena today." Suddenly, someone's face changed drastically. "President, why? Did we fail?" "President, the mayor just said that we did very well in the exam." "President, I don't accept it. I think those evaluations are wrong." "President, XX is much worse than me. Why can he stay here?" Han Fei and the others looked at each other. Did they also eliminate people in this round? Old Bai said, "In this assessment, only those who have no ability at all are picked out. It seems that the quality of this batch of students is very high. Not even 1,500 people have been eliminated." Han Fei was speechless. All the evaluations are F*King negative. How can you call this a high evaluation? Everyone gather. Just after those who were eliminated left, the mayor of the Wind Thunder Town called for everyone to gather again. Everyone took their positions and saw a mysterious large array appear in the arena. When the large array was completely spread out, a huge portal appeared. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, "Everyone, listen up. The third round is in a secret realm. In the secret realm, there is a mountain. No matter what means you use, as long as you reach the top of that mountain, you will pass the test. But remember, no killing is allowed. Once someone dies, the killer will be eliminated on the spot and will be severely punished. Okay, there are only 3 hours left. Everyone, enter the secret realm immediately." Han Fei and the others were overjoyed. This was easy. They liked exploring secret realms the most. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's unlikely to be a directional teleportation, so be prepared. As long as you don't kill people, you should be able to use all other means." Han Fei nodded. "That's right. To put it bluntly, there are all kinds of people in this group, so we can't take it lightly. I just don't know if there are any treasures in this secret realm." Old Bai was speechless. "How dare you say you're not greedy? You haven't even seen the secret realm yet, but you're already thinking about treasures." As it turned out, the test results were almost 100% consistent. As the large team of more than 4,000 people entered one after another, Han Fei and the others stepped into the teleportation array together. When the last person entered the secret realm, the mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said with a smile, "Everyone, let's go to the top of the mountain and wait." As soon as Han Fei stepped into the portal, his eyes suddenly lit up. The first thing he saw was a tall and majestic mountain, which was a bit similar to the secret realm of the Fiery Mountain. But the difference was that this place seemed to be smaller, and the mountain was completely different. If the mountain of the Fiery Mountain was the same as a normal mountain, then this mountain in Han Fei's field of vision was simply a bare cliff that was 90 degrees vertical to the ground. Han Fei even found that the curve of the cliff was a little different, which seemed to be more exaggerated than 90 degrees vertical. It was like a T shape, and there seemed to be a parallel area at the top of the mountain. That was to say, when people climbed to the top, they could almost be parallel to the ground. The moment Han Fei saw this mountain, a strange conjecture suddenly appeared in his mind. Is this asking us to rock climb? Han Fei had thought that there were countless creatures here, and there would be continuous battles. Who would have thought that it would be like this? However, Han Fei immediately frowned. Now they were in the water. Couldn't they swim up? No, if I want to climb the mountain, I have to get close to that mountain first. At that time, Han Fei immediately prepared to swim over. However, as soon as he raised his foot, he was immediately pressed down by a force. Han Fei. Hiss, there's gravity here. Han Fei's first reaction was to think of the tenfold gravity in the 7-star array that Ren Tianfei set up for him in the abyssal chasm. No wonder I felt something was wrong. It turns out that this sea area is covered by multiple times gravity. Han Fei felt that the gravity hadn't reached 10 times, but this feeling seemed to be less than 5 times. Han Fei immediately tried to swim up, but after swimming for about 20 meters against the gravity suddenly increased a little. After swimming to 50 meters, Han Fei felt that the gravity might have reached 8 times. Han Fei didn't intend to continue to test it. He landed directly and was ready to walk over. Compared with swimming against the gravity, it would save time and effort to walk over. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 592. Han Fei once cultivated hard for 2 months under 10 times the gravity, which directly led to his extremely fast speed without gravity. Even if he returned to the gravity environment again, he could still give full play to his skills in battle. There were only 3 hours left, so Han Fei didn't dare to be careless at all. The mountain didn't look short at all. After running for less than 2,000 meters, Han Fei saw a person who was also running against gravity. However, When this person ran, he looked a little unnatural. Obviously, gravity affected his efficiency. This was still at the bottom of the sea, where the gravity was less than 5 times. If he swam out, this person would be even worse. That person obviously knew Han Fei. When he saw Han Fei, his first reaction was to run. Han Fei was speechless. Wait, why did you run when you saw me? That person was also taken aback. Yes, this time the assessment is just to climb a mountain, not to fight. Why did you run? Immediately, that person smiled awkwardly. Sorry. Han Fei ran 2 steps and then trotted over. Huh, bro, you're a bit slow. That person, Han Fei asked, Bro, do you know that there are no rules in the assessment? That person, Han Fei said, So, hand over your swallowing seashells, okay? That person, the person was stunned. Han Fei, we're just here to take a test. What do you mean by robbing us? Han Fei said leisurely, Do you think the assessment is just to climb a mountain? Of course, it also tests your ability to adapt to changes. If this is not a test, are we just going to the top of the mountain to grab treasures? How can you pass if you don't even have a sense of vigilance? When you go out, you should be careful. Avoiding danger is a matter of course. So hand it over. That person's face turned green. Han Fei, don't talk nonsense. We're just taking a test. BM. Han Fei punched out. Under such gravity, every muscle in his body could be used to fight. It was too easy to beat a person who hadn't adapted to the gravity environment. The person fell to the ground. Han Fei easily rummaged, fished out a swallowing seashells, and then said with a smile, Bro, come on, you can do it. With that, Han Fei ran away as fast as he could. That speed was as fast as a small electric motor. Little did they know, at the top of the mountain, there was a shadow hanging upside down in the air. Everything in the arena was under everyone's control. As soon as Han Fei took action, a group of mayors and presidents had seen it. Seeing this scene, the president of the Twin Dragons Academy in Long Dragon Town immediately glared at Old Bai, as if trying to humiliate him. However, Old Bai just stroked his beard lightly and said leisurely that evaluation was given by you. His current behavior was completely in line with the description of the evaluation. Moreover, that kid from your academy is indeed a little silly. Cough, cough. None of the mayors said anything. Kong Xian, the mayor of the Blue Sea town, coughed and thought to himself, By Kongi, don't you know what's going on? We don't care what happens in the arena. But you're still provoking me outside the arena? What are you provoking me for? Speaking of which, there are more than 4,000 people. In a mystic realm that was less than 100 miles in circumference, the chances of encountering each other were actually very high. None of them were ordinary people. Even if they were separated by tens of kilometers, it would be easy for them to notice each other. Han Fei didn't deliberately rob them. After all, these people didn't necessarily have anything good on them. If it was just on the way, the other party had already blocked his way, so it would be embarrassing if he didn't rob them. So before Han Fei reached the foot of the mountain, he had robbed 5 people along the way. After running for about 20 kilometers, the peak was right in front of him, but Han Fei found an abyss thousands of meters long in front of him. Above the abyss, there were hundreds of chains connected to the opposite side. The chains were only as thick as a wrist, incomparable to the huge chains on the floating island. The chains were not close to each other. They were separated by at least 1,000 meters before there was a chain. And on the chain in front of Han Fei, there were 2 people, one in front and one behind. However, the speed of the 2 people was extremely slow. The person in front was a manipulator who could control spiritual plants to buckle the chain. The one behind was just an armorist, carrying an armor box and swinging on the chain. Yes, swinging. The water flow here was a bit strange and seemed to be a bit rapid, which was probably one of the difficulties of the mystic realm. Han Fei looked around and found that almost every chain had people on it. People were gathering. More than 4,000 people were running to a finish line. How could people not gather? Han Fei didn't care about the robbery anymore. Just now, he glanced at the swallowing seashells he had robbed, and the money in them was pitiful. The one with the most only had a few thousand mid-quality pearls, and the one with the least only had a few hundred mid-quality pearls. If he had known this, he might as well not have robbed them. None of them could make as much money as a casual business. Han Fei jumped directly on the chain and was ready to run wildly. Huh? 10 times the gravity? As soon as Han Fei landed on the chain, he already felt weird. This chain was very slippery, as if it had been smeared with oil. In addition, the abyss under his feet and the occasional water rushing up on the left and right sides made the chain extremely unstable and kept shaking. However, it was not a big problem, so Han Fei didn't panic at all. However, many people on the other chains cast him a surprised look. Can this guy still run? When Han Fei ran wildly on the chain, the armorist in front felt that there were 10,000 iron-head fish galloping in his heart. Who the F***CK is this guy? I'm walking on a tightrope. How dare you run as soon as you jump up? The armorist was immediately unsteady. Knowing that he was in trouble, he immediately swam. But just after he swam a few meters, he saw that the height of his whole body kept dropping, and then he sank directly to the bottom. Han Fei was puzzled. If he left the chain here, the gravity might be more than 10 times. Otherwise, how could he sink so fast? Han Fei shouted to the armorist, "Come on, work hard, swim up. You can do it." Han Fei jumped on the chain and didn't need to run at all. He just slid over like skiing. In front, the manipulator glanced back. Seeing that it was Han Fei coming, she immediately buckled forward with vines like crazy. Fortunately, she was almost done, and Han Fei was still more than a kilometer away from her. There was still time. However, she didn't expect that the chain under her feet began to shake. He looked back, only to see Han Fei gliding over at an incredible speed. Is this possible? The person hurried, but when she was less than 300 meters away from the other side, Han Fei caught up with her. Han Fei said, "Girl, get out of the way. Don't block the way." The little girl from an unknown town turned pale with fright and hurriedly used her vines to hold herself up. Then, he jumped to the side, which stunned Han Fei. She had already done this. How could she still bully her? So, Han Fei stepped on the girl's vines and was about to run over. However, when he stepped on the girl's vines, the vines suddenly rioted. Han Fei frowned slightly, jumped up abruptly, and cut all the vines with a branch in his hand. The girl fell directly into the cliff. Han Fei still had time to say to the girl via voice transmission, "Bye-bye." Han Fei was also falling, but he buckled the chain with one hand, turned around, and landed on the chain again. The whole set of movements was so smooth that many people were stunned. However, there was still a little distance between Han Fei and the other side. When he ran forward again, he saw a soul warrior standing at the other end of the chain in front of him, slashing down with a long knife in his hand, ready to cut the chain. "Hey, Han Fei, you didn't expect this day, did you?" Han Fei narrowed his eyes, and the embroidery needle appeared in his hand. A dazzling light burst out from his fist, and he punched the embroidery needle. The next moment, Han Fei jumped up, jumped on the embroidery needle, and flew to the other side as if flying on a sword. 300 meters was too close. As long as he used enough strength, he didn't have to worry about falling at all. Seeing that Han Fei had such a trick, the man immediately ran wildly. Han Fei smiled, took out the fishing rod in his hand, and threw it out with a swish. The man didn't expect that Han Fei could use the 1,000-mile fishing technique so skillfully, and he was directly caught by Han Fei. When Han Fei landed in front of him, the man blinked. "Brother Han, do you believe me if I say I mistook you for someone else just now?" Han Fei pointed to the cliff abyss and said, "Do you want to jump, or do you want me to help you?" Second, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 593. The Abyss of Chains was just an appetizer for climbing the mountain. From the beginning of Han Fei's departure to the present, it had only taken him half an hour. On the Abyss, there were still people struggling, but Han Fei had already started to run around the mountain. Why did he run around the mountain? Of course, he had to choose a suitable position and climb up. This was no different from rock climbing with bare hands. In Han Fei's opinion, this inverted giant peak was extremely advantageous for two types of people. The first type was the manipulator, who could summon spiritual plants and climb up through the spiritual plants. At this moment, Han Fei saw a girl stuck to the rock wall with vines. However, the girl only climbed less than 100 meters before she began to slide down. It could be seen that the vines often broke, or the vines couldn't extend out of the rock crevices. Anyway, Han Fei watched for 100 minutes, but the girl not only didn't climb above 100 meters, but also fell 10 meters down. Han Fei shook his head. It seemed that the manipulator was not strong enough. Maybe this person's strength was limited. Han Fei tried and only climbed about 10 meters. He felt that there were very few places where he could bear the force. When he tried to use the power of Little Fatty to suck it in his hand, he immediately felt that it was much easier. Han Fei didn't rush to go up, but continued to run in circles. If this trial was so simple, it wouldn't have been set to 6 hours. If there was no gravity, it would only take an hour or even less, and it would definitely be enough. After running around for a long time, Han Fei saw that the rock wall was full of people. The tallest one had climbed 700 or 800 meters. Then, Han Fei saw a figure flashing like a monkey. Who else could it be but Xia Xiaochan? However, at this moment, Xia Xiaochan had climbed nearly a kilometer. Han Fei said to her via voice transmission, "Be careful. I'm going to check on Lu Rinquang and the others." Xia Xiaochan was distracted, and the stones in her hand broke. She responded helplessly, "Don't talk to me." But at this moment, Han Fei had already run away. For people who could teleport like Xia Xiaochan, gravity was of little significance. She aimed at the target and flashed away. However, at the moment when she flashed out, she would still be suddenly oppressed, and then she could flash again. When Han Fei saw Lu Rinquang, he found that the fatty was squatting at the foot of the mountain, preparing his bloodthirsty broadsword. Han Fei was lost for words. "Wait, what are you doing here?" Lu Rinquang was overjoyed to see Han Fei. "Do you think my bloodthirsty broadsword can take me up?" Han Fei rolled his eyes. "What are you thinking? The mountains seem to be 7,000 to 8,000 meters tall. You can slash 7,000 to 8,000 meters with one slash? Even if your saber can go up, can a fat person like you hang on the saber? I'm willing to bet that you won't even make it a kilometer before you fall." "Really?" Lu Rinquang, however, gave up the idea of drawing his knife. He rubbed his belly. "Then I can only climb up bit by bit? How long will it take?" Han Fei glanced at the rock wall and said, "It's indeed difficult, but you are an armorist with a sturdy body anyway. Are you afraid that you can't climb up?" Lu Rinquang randomly picked a protruding rock and said, "I've already climbed 100 meters, and I crushed this protrusion. Then I fell down." Han Fei couldn't help but lean forward to take a look, only to find that the small protrusion was only the size of a thumb. It was much more difficult to climb up with this thing than rock climbing. Immediately, Han Fei pressed it with his hand, only to find that it was directly broken by him. Han Fei was speechless. This shows that we have to properly control our own strength. Our strength can't be small, or we can't withstand gravity, or we can easily break these small rocks. Lu Rinquang was speechless. "I know. Then how much strength do you think we should use?" Han Fei glanced at him. "Can't you find Xiaobai? She's a manipulator. Can't you do it?" Lu Rinquang's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's a good idea." So Han Fei and Lu Rinquang circled around the giant peak again. During this period, they saw a dozen people who were gathering together and cooperating with each other. For manipulators were trying to make the spirit plants latch onto the rock wall. There were more and more people at the foot of the mountain. When Han Fei arrived, there might only be a few hundred people here. However, after Han Fei ran half a lap, he could see people almost everywhere at the foot of the mountain. Most of these people had already started to climb. After they realized that this was a gravity secret realm, they knew that time must be very precious. And when climbing, as long as they used the right strength, they would be able to climb. Therefore, it was a competition of whose strength was more accurate and whose speed was faster. However, these people were just climbing and had never thought that there was no other way but to climb. Some people might be thinking, but when they saw that others had already climbed hundreds of meters, they became anxious. They didn't have a good idea in their minds, so they became anxious and also started to climb. When Han Fei found Luo Xiaobai and Zhang Xuanyu, he found that the two had climbed more than 500 meters high. Besides, the two of them were very fast and didn't seem to have climbed for long. Immediately, Luren Kuang said via voice transmission, "Wait for me." Luo Xiaobai lowered her head and found that Han Fei and Luren Kuang had run down at some point. Immediately, two vines dangled down. Immediately, Luren Kuang grabbed the vines. However, as soon as he pulled, dozens of vines on Zhang Xuanyu's side suddenly collapsed. He was hanging upside down on the cliff. Zhang Xuanyu said helplessly, "Kuang Kuang, don't use so much strength. I told you not to eat so much, but you only know how to eat." With a thought from Luo Xiaobai, a large number of small leafy vines like Boston creepers were sucked to the rock wall. Luo Xiaobai said, "It doesn't matter. The four of us can barely hold on. However, Han Fei, you have to give me some spiritual energy. Besides, Luren Kuang, you can't completely count on the vines. The gravity on this rock wall is greater than outside, and it's not easy to be sucked." Han Fei thought for a while. "What about eating spiritual fruits?" Luo Xiaobai thought for a while. Eating spiritual fruits will cause the spiritual energy in the body to surge, which will easily lead to spiritual energy instability. At that time, the four of us will definitely fall down. Besides, have you noticed that there are a lot of people near us? Han Fei turned his head and looked. There were probably nearly 100 people on the nearby cliff. Except for a dozen familiar faces from the Blue Sea town, the others were all new faces. Han Fei's face darkened. Were these people waiting for Luo Xiaobai and the others to climb up and then attack them? Han Fei grinned. "Got it." With a swish, Han Fei took out his Blue Sea wandering dragon daggers. In an instant, arrow light shot out everywhere, and the sky was full of arrow shadows. "Han Fei, don't go too far. We're not disturbing you." "Han Fei, you're maliciously stopping us from climbing the mountain." Han Fei snorted coldly. "This is the Thug Academy. Irrelevant people, please leave." In an instant, hundreds of people fell one after another. There was a big problem with climbing the mountain. As long as someone attacked from below, the people above couldn't climb at all. Someone immediately shouted, "Han Fei, if we stay here, you won't be able to climb the mountain." Someone said, "Han Fei, at this time, we have to trust each other." Han Fei sneered. "Trust? Why you talk about trust with strangers?" Han Fei said, "Xiaobai, come down." Luo Xiaobai was confused. "Huh?" Han Fei said, "Entangle me with tough vines. I will climb up first and then drag you up." "Huh?" Zhang Xuanyu was stunned. "Are you sure?" Luren Kuang asked, "How long will you climb?" Han Fei grinned. "It's a pity that Xia Xiaochan has already climbed up. The others are not trustworthy. As long as Xiaobai's vines are tough enough and don't be cut off by others, it will be very difficult for me to pull her up." Xia Xiaochan trusted Han Fei and the others too much. In her simple mind, climbing the mountain shouldn't be a problem. The only person she thought of before going up was Luren Kuang. This guy is very lazy. He should go to Xiaobai for help, right? But she didn't know that the problem was too simple. If it were so simple, such a test question wouldn't have been set. Luo Xiaobai looked at the extremely high mountain. "Once the vines are more than a kilometer away from me, my control will be weak. More than 3,000 meters, I can't control them. You need to remind us then." Han Fei grinned. "Got it." Immediately, Luo Xiaobai and the others jumped down. This was the third time they climbed. Before, some people were sabotaging them. After being beaten away by them, some people came to sabotage them. As a result, although Luo Xiaobai and the others were strong, they couldn't do anything at this time. In the distance, there were still people watching coldly. Someone sneered. "No matter who goes up, they can't go up." In Han Fei's perception range, it seemed that many villains were ready to take action. On the top of the mountain, he couldn't perceive them. It seemed that there was an array on the top of the mountain. After Luo Xiaobai grabbed Han Fei, she calmly analyzed, "Although I don't know why, the three of us may be besieged later. There will definitely be people who will stop you from climbing the mountain. Let's try it first and find out who has ulterior motives." The third chapter. Don't panic, there's still one more chapter. End of this chapter. Chapter 594. It was obviously unrealistic to fight nearly 4,000 people at the same time. They communicated for a while and knew that someone was targeting them. These people seemed to be from every academy, so Luo Xiaobai and the others couldn't determine which academy they should attack at all. Coincidentally, Han Fei came, and judging from Han Fei's tone, it didn't seem too difficult to go up. They immediately made a plan. Thousands of thin vines intertwined and clasped Han Fei's body. Han Fei didn't rush up, but waited for Luo Xiaobai's vines to stretch out long enough. Otherwise, which manipulator would have the ability to create such a long vine on a 10,000-meter tall cliff? Han Fei perceived that someone was waiting. They didn't intend to climb at all and seemed to be waiting for him to take action. People from the Fiery Dragon Town? Not only them, but also the Wind Thunder Town, while the Sky Marshal Town is also among them. Why? In Han Fei's perception, the people of at least 8 towns seemed to be planning to attack him. Han Fei couldn't help saying, Zhang Xuanyu, there seem to be a lot of people. Can you resist them? Zhang Xuanyu licked his lips and said, I can try, but I'm not sure. This gravity secret realm has a great impact on me. However, it seems to have a great impact on them. Han Fei said, I'll go up first. It's useless to play with these fancy tricks. Let me see which town is targeting us. See if I don't kill them later. After a while, when the vines had reached 5,000 meters, Han Fei suddenly jumped onto the rock wall. Those thumb-sized rock crevices and bumps were basically broken by Han Fei's fingers. However, Han Fei was climbing quickly with the help of this temporary force. On the top of the mountain, under the sky hanging mirror, the presidents of other academies shook their heads slightly. In this way, he needs to maintain countless bursts of spiritual energy. Even if he can go up to 7,000 meters, what about the thousands of meters that are almost parallel to the ground? The top of this mountain was T-shaped, almost parallel to the ground. Most people could actually go up to 7,000 meters. But when it came to this area, the difficulty was not just a little bit higher. No one knew how many people would fall from here. As a result, very few people could really reach the top of the mountain in the end. However, just as the president finished speaking, a figure flickered on the top of the mountain. Xia Xiaochan had already reached the top. All the deans. At a glance, Xia Xiaochan saw a group of mayors and presidents who were gathered together and looking at a huge phantom in the void. She also saw that many people were climbing up that illusory figure. After searching for a while, Xia Xiaochan saw Luo Xiaobai and the others, as well as Han Fei, who was leaping up. Han Fei's speed was extremely fast, thanks to Ren Tianfei's 7 stars array. His control over his own body was so precise that it made one's hair stand on end. At this moment, Han Fei seemed to be running on a rock wall. Many people were dumbfounded. Damn it, do you think this is flat ground? When he climbed to an altitude of 1,000 meters, he sensed that someone was besieging Luo Xiaobai and the others. Therefore, Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang took action, and a fierce battle broke out under the cliff. However, Han Fei did not stop climbing. Because these people were all miscellaneous soldiers, there were still people who had not come out. Nearly 100 breaths of time passed. Han Fei had felt that the Luo Xiaobai and the others couldn't hold on any longer. Suddenly, he heard Luo Xiaobai's voice transmission. The mastermind should be the Wind Thunder Town. The Fiery Dragon Town and the Million Gold Town are also the main forces. You can come down now. Swish! Han Fei stepped on the rock wall, kicked it, and fell rapidly from the sky. With the blue sea wandering dragon bow in his hand, he shot anyone he found along the way. Immediately, someone roared, Han Fei, you bastard! Han Fei, we have no grudge against each other. Why are you attacking us? Han Fei, you've gone too far. Why are you attacking us? Han Fei said to everyone in the 36 towns, listen to me. Anyone who attacks the Thug Academy will be punished like the Wind Thunder Town, the Fiery Dragon Town, and the Million Gold Town. As Han Fei's voice sounded, the surroundings shook. When Han Fei fell from the sky, a golden fist shadow fell from the sky. Those who were besieging Luo Xiaobai and the others were all stunned. He jumped down just like that. Someone shouted, run! Han Fei said angrily. Let's see where you are going. Bam! The fist mark broke through the air and appeared 100 meters away in an instant. Some students from the Fiery Dragon Town were no match for it, and were sent flying hundreds of meters by Han Fei's punch. Some students from a Million Gold Town ran too slowly and were punched into the ground by Han Fei. The students from the Wind Thunder Town were generally very strong, all above the peak level of the ultimate color, but they still couldn't resist Han Fei's art of invincibility. With a thought from Luo Xiaobai, the vines around Han Fei's waist were automatically untied. Luo Xiaobai said, "Stop crawling. Let's deal with the people from the 3 towns first." On the top of the mountain, the presidents were all stunned. Why did they suddenly fight? Olbai sneered. Have you forgotten? We are thugs to begin with. They shouldn't have taken the assessment with personal grudges in the first place. After all, 4 of the 5 people in our school have been evaluated as vengeful. A president frowned. So what? How can they be sure that it was the people from the Wind Thunder Town, the Fiery Dragon Town, and the Million Gold Town who attacked them? The people who attacked them included students from at least 10 academies. Old Bai smiled again. Have you forgotten that Luo Xiaobai from our school has excellent grades? What's her evaluation? She has strong logical judgment and thinking ability. These people besieged our Thug Academy, which was obviously premeditated. At this moment, they were just discovered. Down below, Han Fei was chasing a group of people. 5 or 6 strong masters from the Wind Thunder Town communicated with each other, contacted dozens of strong masters from the Fiery Dragon Town and the Million Gold Town, and turned around to fight. Although they knew that Han Fei's combat power was extremely strong, he was outnumbered. No matter how strong Han Fei was, could he be stronger than so many of them? But the result was beyond their expectations. A small branch appeared in Han Fei's hand. Rays of knife light shot out one after another, reaching everyone in an instant. Oh no, how is this possible? How can he be so fast? This knife is unstoppable. What kind of weird combat skill is this? In the preliminary round, Han Fei only attacked once, and from beginning to end, there was only one knife light. How could these people know? Han Fei had merged the void-breaking technique and the art of invincibility into the knife light, so they couldn't dodge it at all. After a few slashes, everyone vomited blood. And this was when Han Fei didn't use his full strength. If he used his full strength, these people would probably be killed with one slash. Han Fei wouldn't kill anyone. Otherwise, he would fail this assessment. These people all lay on the ground, looking horrified. Han Fei grinned and said, "Can you try again? Just do it, but don't let me meet you in the unknown place. Otherwise, I will kill every one of you until the 3 towns are wiped out." At this moment, Han Fei was like an evil villain, violent, arrogant, and crazy. Including Luo Xiaobai and the other 2, they began to run around the mountain. Whenever they found students from these 3 towns on the rock wall on the way, they would shoot them down without letting any of them go. The people from the other academies were dumbfounded. What's going on? Can't they just climb the mountain? They don't even know the purpose of this assessment, and they started to fight? Zhang Xuanyu's 9-layered waves in the furious sea surged out. Several students from a Million Gold Town vomited blood and retreated. Zhang Xuanyu, why are you targeting us? Zhang Xuanyu sneered. Because someone from your town really attacked us. Those students were speechless. We didn't attack them. Zhang Xuanyu sneered. I don't care. Anyway, someone from your town did. So, none of your towns can go up. Luo Xiaobai controlled the vines to sweep around and launched the Grand Spirit Summoning Art. All the students from the 3 towns within a kilometer fell down. Besides, Luo Xiaobai was even more ruthless. With the full power of the Grand Spirit Summoning Art, these falling people were stunned in midair and smashed to the ground one after another. In only an hour, 80% of the students from the 3 towns were knocked down by Han Fei and the others, which made the other towns tremble. Everyone was speechless. Isn't this 2F** King fierce? Just a few people want to target you. What about you? You've knocked down all the students from the other towns? Someone shouted, Luo Xiaobai, hundreds of us can't beat the 4 of you. Luo Xiaobai responded indifferently. If you don't want to go to the top, you can try. If you want, Just tell the people in your town who have evil intentions. If you fight again, this matter will never end. Someone's heart skipped a beat. In the future, they would have to deal with these people in the unknown place. They couldn't afford to offend them now. Otherwise, according to the character of these thugs, they would definitely kill them. At this moment, the mayors of the Wind Thunder Town, the Fiery Dragon Town, and the Million Gold Town, including the teachers, all looked extremely gloomy. This was especially so for the Wind Thunder Town. As the host of the friendly competition, they had been sabotaged. Besides, they had lost so miserably. Wasn't this a slap in the face? On the top of the mountain, there was still only Xia Xiaochan. Xia Xiaochan had begun to circle around the entire top of the mountain. Soon after, she saw an acquaintance, Jing Changfeng of the Wind Thunder Town. At this moment, Jing Changfeng had climbed above 7,000 meters, and he had climbed half of the rock wall parallel to the ground. The president of the Wind Thunder Town was shocked, but Jing Changfeng looked overjoyed. The ghost god chain was really powerful. He should be the first to reach the top of the mountain. However, as soon as he showed his head, he saw a foot stepping down. Jing Changfeng. The author says, "Don't urge me to update these 2 days. From the day after tomorrow, please urge me with monthly tickets. The unknown place is coming soon." End of this chapter. Chapter 595. Jing Changfeng fell down. After climbing for more than an hour, he was kicked down by someone. He fell from a height of 10,000 meters and was powerless in the water. As for swimming, he couldn't swim at all. After all, swimming under such great gravity was much more difficult than climbing a mountain. Jing Changfeng tried to hook somewhere on the top of the mountain with his fishing rod. However, during the crazy fall, the hook rose against gravity, and Xia Xiaochan didn't even need to do anything. The hook touched the rock wall and then began to fall too. On the rock wall, the person who climbed the highest had already reached a height of 7,000 meters. Some people had already climbed the most dangerous parallel rock wall. This section was particularly difficult and required both hands and feet. They needed to hook the rock crevice with one hand and one foot at the same time to move forward slowly with the help of these 2 points of strength. Under the mountain peak, Han Fei and the others gathered again. It was so convenient for them to fight. Those people were all clinging to the rock wall. They could shoot them down with a casual arrow. After they came down, because the other party couldn't borrow strength, they went up and beat them hard. Nearly 400 people from the 3 towns were beaten to a pulp by them. The assessment rules forbade killing, and no one thought it was worth it to drag 3 or 4 people with the future of hundreds of people. Han Fei took a breath holding the vines, and then said, "I'll go up first and pull you up." Luo Xiaobai buckled Han Fei with the vines. "Okay, after you go up, just start pulling me up." Han Fei grinned and immediately jumped on the rock wall. Those thumb-sized protrusions were enough, in Han Fei's view. After 2 months of training with Ren Tianfei, Han Fei's muscle control had reached a very high level. Besides, the explosive force used at that moment was enough for Han Fei to find the next stress point. So the student from the 36 towns saw Han Fei climbing again. That speed was like running wildly on the rock wall, like a 10,000-meter sprint without stopping at all. On the top of the mountain, Xia Xiaochan circled around and saw no second person climbing up, so she went to watch the sky hanging mirror with a group of presidents and mayors. In the picture, Han Fei ran wildly on the rock wall again, faster than last time, which stunned everyone. A president frowned. "This boy's control of strength is so strong." Someone praised. "This person is brave and has a strong personality." Now, no one on the cliff will make a move. Someone said, "I don't know if he can still enter so quickly on this rock wall that's completely parallel to our feet." Han Fei didn't plan to attack other people on the rock wall. To him, as long as the 5 from the Thug Academy could reach the top first, it didn't matter if they fought or not. At this moment, Han Fei noticed that nearly 20 people had climbed to the rock wall parallel to the ground and were slowly moving forward. Han Fei grinned. "Interesting. This is a bit of a challenge." It only took about a quarter of an hour for Han Fei to climb to a height of 7,000 meters. The speed was so fast that it left people speechless. In the sky hanging mirror, Han Fei was already close to the parallel rock wall. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he actually leaped into the air, spread his 10 fingers, and like a giant gecko, he directly sucked on the parallel rock wall. Han Fei looked back, only to find that all the stress points were on his hands and feet. At this moment, he was fighting against gravity. Of course, Han Fei could also use the powerful suckers of Little Fatty, but Han Fei didn't want to use them. Although everyone knew that he had an octopus contractual spiritual beast, he didn't want to use it, because he suspected that the result of this test would be reported to the unknown place. Han Fei spread his 5 fingers, and the rock wall, which had almost no stress point, was actually sucked by the twisting muscles of Han Fei's hand. Han Fei was crawling like a big gecko. In just a few minutes, he passed an excellent student from another town hundreds of meters away. After 100 minutes, Han Fei had climbed nearly 800 meters. At this moment, Han Fei had changed to crawling forward. He spread his 5 fingers and stuck them to the rock wall, and his forearm was completely stuck to the rock wall. His calf was also stuck to the rock wall. After another 100 minutes, Han Fei jumped up and clasped the slanted rock wall at the edge with only the strength of his 10 fingers. The energy on his fingertips burst out in an instant, and with a whoosh, he jumped to the top of the peak. Xia Xiaochan had been waiting for Han Fei. The presidents and the mayors all cast strange looks at Han Fei, looking at him as if he were a monster. What realm had this person cultivated his physique to? He had been sprinting all the way without stopping for a moment. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that every time, Han Fei used just the right amount of strength. This was particularly evident when he climbed the parallel rock wall. Everyone couldn't help but marvel again at how precise this boy's control of strength was. When Han Fei reached the top of the peak, he was taken aback. There was a projection on the sky, which actually reflected all the pictures. Xia Xiaochan instructed, "Pull them up first." Han Fei nodded. This time, his perception was not blocked. Below, Luo Xiaobai and the other 2 were still waiting. Luren Kuang was eating small dried fish and didn't continue to look for trouble. Below, Zhang Xuanyu raised his head and looked up, and his neck was almost stiff. "Do you think he climbed up?" "It's too high. I can't see clearly." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "It should be much worse. The vines are already hanging in the air. I think it will be fine in a while." Luren Kuang muttered, "That's too abnormal. How can he climb up this kind of thing? If it were me, I would have to climb for a day." Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, "You won't say that when you run for your life one day." Luren Kuang was still holding small dried fish in his hand and stuffing it into his mouth. Suddenly, the 3 of them rose from the ground and were quickly pulled up. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, "So fast." Above the cliff, Han Fei quickly pulled the vines like a tug of war. How heavy were the 3 of them? Even if the gravity was 10 times heavier, Han Fei didn't feel anything. It only took Luren Kuang and the other 2 half an hour to climb the mountain, which was more than 8,000 meters high. When they reached the top of the mountain, Luren Kuang shouted, "We're finally up." Zhang Xuanyu and Luo Xiaobai looked at the projection in the sky, a little puzzled. Old Bai suddenly said, "Okay, since you're all up, don't attack them. In any case, leave some chances for him." Han Fei was just about to circle around the cliff when he was stopped by Old Bai. Han Fei smiled and said, "Okay, then we won't attack them. Anyway, we've won." So the 5 of them sat in the center of the mountain, watching TV with a group of mayors and presidents. Some people had just climbed out of the outer abyss. Some people encountered a thorny grass forest and were still struggling inside. And some people were fighting below. Most people had reached the area above 4,000 meters at this moment. However, there were less than 300 people left at the 7,000-meter mark. Among them, there were about 80 people on the parallel rock wall. From time to time, some people accidentally fell down because they didn't control their strength well. In the sea, the gravity was extremely high, so they soon fell to the bottom of the sea. Han Fei and the others looked at each other. How torturous it was to start all over again. And some people were stuck at the height of 7,000 meters and didn't climb anymore. Why didn't they climb? Because it was not easy to climb here. The assessment was not to compete with oneself, but with others. Being stronger than others had already proved that one was excellent enough. What if they continued to climb and fell down? The sixth person to reach the top was Ming Kuan from the Wind Thunder Town. Fortunately, he arrived after Han Fei and the others. If he had arrived before Han Fei, he would have been kicked down by Xia Xiaochan. One after another, people reached the top. Most of these people were elites from the 36 towns. For example, Li Hani was the 48th to reach the top, followed by Zhongyu, the 59th. In the end, when 3 hours were up, a total of 123 people reached the top. However, after reaching the top, the assessment didn't seem to be over, and the mayors and presidents were still waiting. Finally, those people below found something wrong. Didn't they say 3 hours? Time was up. Why didn't it end? Luo Xiaobai said lightly. The 3-hour assessment time should be fake. I'm afraid that the mayors and presidents just want to see everyone's temperament. Han Fei couldn't help but say, climbing a mountain depends on strength and patience. Now, it depends on temperament. Apart from this, what else is there to test in this round of examination? Luo Xiaobai nodded. We came up with cooperation, so it depends on teamwork. It also depends on skills and abilities and how to solve problems. Zhang Xuanyu said lightly, so in this assessment, we can actually see a lot of things. Strength, temperament, patience, cooperation, and means. Otherwise, why are they still watching this? 6 hours later, the number of people who reached the top had reached 527. At this moment, the voice of the mayor of the Wind Thunder Town resounded throughout the secret realm. This assessment is over. Everyone, quickly gather at the top. The sky curtain disappeared. The gravity disappeared. The teleportation array appeared. Those who reached the top were extremely lucky. Because they came up, they won nearly 4,000 people. First, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 596. Han Fei and the others left the teleportation array as soon as possible. This treasure trove was only used for assessment and was of no other significance. After about half an hour, everyone left the teleportation array and reappeared in the Wind Thunder Arena. At this moment, dozens of presidents were calling for everyone to gather. As Han Fei expected, many presidents began to read the list. It took them half an hour, and in the end, nearly 3,000 people were eliminated. When the eliminated people left dejectedly, Luo Xiaobai said lightly, there are a total of 1,368 people left. There shouldn't be a next round. Sure enough, as Luo Xiaobai said, the mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, congratulations to the 1,368 students from the 36 towns. You are very lucky. Now I will present you with the rewards. Huh, there are rewards. Haha, I knew it. This exchange competition won't be in vain. The more than 1,000 people immediately cheered. However, Han Fei and the others noticed that the presidents didn't look happy at all. Immediately, he guessed that this reward shouldn't be something good. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town said, in addition, let me announce the top 100 powerhouses before this exchange competition. The mayor of the Wind Thunder Town picked up a list. Congratulations to Xia Xiaochan from the Thug Academy from the Blue Sea Town for winning the first place. Congratulations to Han Fei from the Thug Academy from the Blue Sea Town for winning the second place. Congratulations to Luo Xiaobai, Zhang Xuanyu, and Luren Quang from the Thug Academy for winning the third, fourth, and fifth places respectively. Congratulations to Ming Kuan from the Wind Thunder Academy from the Wind Thunder Town for winning the sixth place. When a mayor of the Wind Thunder Town read the list, many students fell silent, and many students were very surprised. Silence. That was because an academy they had never heard of had suddenly risen to prominence. It was so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. They were surprised because everyone thought that Han Fei was the strongest. But Xia Xiaochan didn't fight at all. How did she get the first place? Han Fei's fame was earned in the Wind Thunder Arena for real. Was Xia Xiaochan a hidden expert of the Thug Academy who was even stronger than Han Fei? Han Fei said to Old Bai, President, I think we seem to be a bit high profile. Old Bai's face was full of smiles. High profile just this once. When you enter the unknown place, No one will care about your ranking in the 36-town exchange competition. So, just keep a low profile there. Han Fei could tell that the Thug Academy suddenly became high profile because of Old Bai's obsession. This old man wanted to revive the glory of the Thug Academy. This time, he finally got what he wanted. From today on, the name of the Thug Academy would resound throughout the 36 towns. There would only be more and more rumors about the Thug Academy, because they all knew that there was an academy from the Blue Sea town that had only sent 5 people, but those 5 people took the top 5 spots in the 36-town competition. In history, it seemed that only the Thug Academy had ever done this. It was the same this time and the previous time. After the ranking was announced, Old Bai suddenly lost interest. A moment later, he returned with 5 small black badges with 3 shining stars engraved on them. The 5 people's badges were the same. Han Fei also deliberately perceived, only to find that among the 1,368 people present, only the top 100 got the badges with 3 stars engraved on them. The remaining 1,268 people all had 2 stars engraved on their badges. Han Fei couldn't help asking, so those who were just eliminated but haven't left the Wind Thunder Town should be able to get a 1-star badge? Lu Renquang said, "That's easy to guess. I guess those students who have already gone back may not have the badges for them." Zhang Xuanyu put his arm around Lu Renquang's neck. "Ha, you are finally smart for once. Then tell me, what does this black badge mean?" Lu Renquang thought for a long time. "How would I know? It means that we are better than them." Xia Xiaochan said, "Stupid, it must be related to the unknown place." Luo Xiaobai said, "The test of this exchange competition is quite strange. It's not a competition of fishing, nor is it a competition of combat power. It seems that the contestant's temperament is more important. So, I guess this is very likely to be a kind of selection of talents by the unknown place." Xia Xiaochan added, "So, this badge must be given to everyone in the unknown place. They are ranked according to the number of stars." Han Fei grinned. "Xia Xiaochan, you are finally smart." Xia Xiaochan glared at Han Fei. "I'm smart." Han Fei looked at this badge repeatedly and pondered for a while. Suddenly, he thought of something. The material of this badge. Immediately, Han Fei took a look at a badge in Forge the Universe. It was the prison token that he found in the treasure gate of the hexagon starfish at the beginning. Huh, is it the same? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. The hexagon starfish was locked in the ordinary fishery under the heavenly water village by Ren Tianfei 300 years ago. How could it have the token of the unknown place? Besides, the prison token must be a prison. Did this badge have anything to do with the prison of the unknown place? Han Fei decided to ask Master Hexagon where this prison token came from. The friendly competition between the 36 towns ended so easily. The Wind Thunder Town specially organized a farewell ceremony. Some people made a lot of friends here, and some people offended a lot of people here. For example, the Thug Academy offended a lot of people this time. Among them, Han Fei offended the most people. He even offended hundreds of thousands of ordinary people in the Wind Thunder Town. At this moment, Han Fei waved at the crowd enthusiastically and shouted to the crowd, "Quietly, I'm leaving." Just as I'm coming quietly, I'm waving my sleeves, not taking away a cloud. In the farewell team, many people's faces suddenly changed. Some people were so angry that their faces turned red. I've never seen such a shameless person. There are so many of us here to see him off, but he said he's leaving quietly. Why is he leaving quietly? Shameless Han Fei. He didn't take away a cloud, but he took away countless money from our Wind Thunder Town. He even abducted the ghost-eyed giant crocodile from the Wind Thunder Arena. I hate this Han Fei most. He's arrogant and conceited. Don't go. I'll challenge him tomorrow. Someone next to him was speechless. Why didn't he go up and say something? Xia Xiaochan tilted her head and looked at Han Fei. What are you chanting? Han Fei replied, poetry. Luo Xiaobai wondered, poetry? It sounds quite special. Xia Xiaochan nodded. Yes, it sounds nice. It had to be said that women were very good at grasping the ostentatiousness of words. This proved that no matter if it was a violent woman or a cold and aloof woman, they were all emotional creatures. They were completely different from what they showed on the outside. Luren Kuang was also waving his hand. I won't take away a cloud either. Zhang Xuanyu said regretfully. It's a pity that we don't have much time in the Wind Thunder Town. Otherwise, we would have been able to meet a few good friends. What a pity, what a pity. Han Fei turned their heads and walked to the teleportation array. Let's go. Let's go home and make money without taking anything. Old Bai staggered in front of him. How can you make money? Go back and cultivate. In less than half a year, the Thug Academy will carry out closed training. No one is allowed to be lazy. One Rin, you said, this time, Xiao Zhan and the president will guide your cultivation 24 hours a day, until you go to the unknown place. Huh? Everyone looked bitter. Luren Kuang said, alas, go back and make a hot pot first, then cultivate hard. However, Old Bai sneered. Hot pot? You think too much. In the next half a year, you're only allowed to eat hot pot and barbecue once every half a month. The rest of the time is used for cultivation. Huh? Do you have to do this? President, please let me go. President, how can you be so cruel? When Han Fei returned to the academy, the reputation of the Thug Academy being invincible in the 36 towns had been spread by the fish dragons. Han Fei only had time to throw a sea-swallowing seashell to Li Gang before he was carried back by Old Bai. In the sea-swallowing seashell, there were less than 500 low-quality spiritual weapons. It was said that there were a lot of people signing up for the lottery. Han Fei felt that this could be a long-term business, so he gave some more to Li Gang. The rest of the matter was not something he could manage. On the day, he returned to the Thug Academy. The training quietly began. Second, asking for votes into this chapter. Chapter 597. Half a year later, Han Fei and the other four had been tortured to death in the past 6 months. Xiao Zhan, Wen Rinyu, and Old Bai's continuous compulsory teaching made Han Fei and the others almost have no time to eat. Every day, they were only given 8 hours of free time at night. During this period of time, they were in charge of it. Although they were in charge of this period of time, a whole day of training forced them to use this free time every night to cultivate and absorb spiritual energy into their bodies. Of course, Han Fei was an exception. This guy spent his free time at night on the plantation. Because Han Fei had a lot to learn. Everyone knew that the hard cultivation of the past 6 months was actually to prepare for the unknown place. Old Bai and the other two also changed their previous laziness just to let Han Fei and the others live a good life in the unknown place. Therefore, they didn't complain. It was just that Han Fei had learned a lot of things. He spent half a year studying arrays, knife techniques, bout techniques, footwork, and swimming skills. At the same time, he remembered what Ren Tianfei said to him. He told him to find a heaven-level, high-quality body refining technique when he went to the unknown place. Therefore, in the past 6 months, Han Fei didn't even fall in love and had pressed his time to the extreme every day. Fortunately, the results were remarkable. Of all his combat skills, because he had enough spiritual power, the million knife art was finally deduced. And the deduced combat skill was indeed terrifying. If it weren't for the fact that the million knife art required too many weapons, Han Fei suspected that this combat skill should be classified as a divine quality combat skill. The deduced combat skill was as follows. Million knives in one, heaven level, mid-quality. Note, this is a technique to control knives. 10,000 knives are shot out at the same time, like a galaxy hanging upside down. Wherever you think, the knives will follow. When a momentum reaches the peak, it will form a waterfall of knives, which is continuous like a tide. The knives will not stop moving. Disadvantages: requires a lot of weapons and high spiritual power. Derived cultivation technique. 10,000 thought blade light completion. 0/5 million. Han Fei used it once when fighting against Old Bai and said that he had an epiphany. At that time, all the knives on Han Fei's body were unleashed. As long as the knives were not broken, the waterfall of knives would not stop. The supreme grade spiritual weapon, which had already been infused with a mess-swallowing worm, increased its speed and directly flattened a small hill. Later, at the top of the small mountain, the saber intent was awe-inspiring. At this moment, it had become the cultivation place of Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan. They didn't even need to find an opponent. They could just fight with the knife intent left by Han Fei. As for what kind of saber intent it was Han Fei's own fault for adding these things to the knife. With the shadow of the art of invincibility, it could be said that he had comprehended the artistic conception of his saber. Apart from the 10,000 knives in one, after several months of hard work at school, the upper limit of his spiritual energy had also increased a lot, but he still hadn't reached the limit. Han Fei could only return to his old profession. There were no shortcuts to body refinement, and he couldn't strengthen the indestructible body for the time being. It hadn't been long since he broke through the second barrier, and he didn't have the opportunity to focus on cultivation. He simply took out the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies and continued to deduce it. After 3 attempts, and consuming nearly 30 million points of spiritual energy, he finally pushed it to heaven-level, divine quality. 108 desolate God body, heaven-level, divine quality. Remarks: the human body is like a funnel with 108 unimportant acupoints and 36 fatal acupoints. When you practice acupoints with a mysterious art, you can merge the major acupoints into one. When you practice it to the peak, there will only be one acupoint in the whole body, and you can crazily absorb spiritual energy from the void in battle. Disadvantages: when you fight crazily, it may be difficult to stop, and the major acupoint will be fatal. Deduced art. Unknown completion. 0/50 million. This brand new 108 desolate God body increased the upper limit of Han Fei's spiritual energy crazily again. After half a year, Han Fei had refined all the acupoints in his body to only 32. If you want to go further, he would need to polish it slowly. When he polished it to the end, it would become the only acupoint. At that time, the 108 desolate God body would be considered a phenomenal success. In addition to the saber technique and the body refining technique, Han Fei also deduced the shadow swimming art to heaven-level, high quality. The direct result of this was the 3 heaven-level, high-quality combat skills: the shadow swimming art, the flying fish art, and the sea racing art were merged into one. This time, Han Fei only spent 3 million points of spiritual energy to merge the 3 books and got an unparalleled book, the 64-dimensional Fish Dragon Dance. 64-dimensional Fish Dragon Dance. Venerable level, low quality. Remarks: this is the infinity technique, which is the culmination of the swimming technique of thousands of creatures. The 64-dimensional infinity technique can derive thousands of skills. When it's mastered, it can be as fast as a swimming dragon, and when it's mastered, it can cross the sea. Disadvantages: it has a high requirement for spiritual power and is extremely difficult to get started. Deduced art. Unknown completion. 0/100 million. When Han Fei fused this technique, he was shocked to find that this swimming technique had several magical functions. When he finished understanding the swimming technique, he was shocked to find out that this swimming technique actually had a few magical abilities. Second, as long as he mastered it, he could change the swimming skill at will. Secondly, as long as he mastered it, he could change the swimming skill at will. He could change any of them to form his own swimming technique. And through the 64-dimensional Fish Dragon Dance, he could change countless swimming skills. In other words, he had practiced dozens of swimming skills with all his might. With a thought, he could combine any of the 64 swimming skills, and in the blink of an eye, a swimming skill would appear. That was not the point. There was a third ability. That was, this technique could not only simulate swimming skills in the sea, but also be used as a combat movement technique. For example, Han Fei used the 64-dimensional Fish Dragon Dance to simulate Xia Xiaochan's movement technique, which made him so nimble in fights. Of course, because this technique was too difficult, Han Fei hadn't even mastered it yet. Because it was too difficult, Han Fei didn't dare to continue to deduce it. He knew that the combat skill he deduced would be stronger than the 64-dimensional Fish Dragon Dance, but it was useless if he couldn't learn it. In the end, that was Han Fei's study of the spirit gathering scripture. This half a year could be said to be the most fruitful half a year for Han Fei. Every day, whenever he had the slightest spare time, Han Fei would drag the hexagon starfish out of the bull conch pit to study it. He didn't know if it was because his spiritual power was much stronger, but he felt that the effect of the spirit-gathering scripture this time was much better than last time. Han Fei studied 6 types of arrays, namely, spirit-gathering array. Han Fei had already learned this. But in addition to the great spirit-gathering array, he also learned the spirit-amplifying array and the spirit-returning array. Concealment array. Han Fei wasn't familiar with this before. He only knew the simplest concealment array, which even peak-level dangling fishers couldn't hide from. After studying it, he realized that there were many concealment arrays, including the breath concealment array, the stealth array, and the sealing technique. This sealing technique was extremely awesome. It could even seal one's own cultivation. He could even pretend to be someone with a lower realm than him. However, because he hadn't practiced it well enough, it was easy to be seen through by people stronger than him. Speed array. This included 12 kinds of speed arrays, such as the water array, wind chasing array, and tide array. Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't have a chance to study them one by one. Killing array. This included the 100 water mystic killing array, the water explosion array, and the 7 spirits killing array. This was the only array that Han Fei hadn't learned. Only the 7 spirits killing array occasionally appeared, but he hadn't learned it yet. Defense array. This included the 6 spirit armor, the coiled turtle array, the great water wall array, and so on. Han Fei only learned the 6 spirit armor. Sound isolation array. As the name suggested, it was used for soundproofing. Sound isolation array. As the name suggested, it was used for soundproofing. For example, even though Han Fei had studied the above arrays for half a year, he only learned the breath concealment array, the water array, the 6 spirit armor, the soundproofing array, and the great spirit gathering array that he already knew. Yes, Han Fei only learned 5 in total. This kind of array could be formed with 1 foot. Except for the Great Spirit Gathering Array, the other 4 arrays could be formed with 1 foot. If Han Fei had enough time, he would be able to create the 7 Spirits Killing Array, including the Killing Array. In Han Fei's opinion, he had cultivated so much in half a year. It could be said that he had worked hard and his strength had improved to a higher level. In terms of combat power alone, Han Fei had improved by at least 30%. His growth was extremely fast. It was a pity that so far, the upper limit of his spiritual energy hadn't reached the peak. He still couldn't break through to peak-level dangling fishers. On the contrary, the other 4 under the activation of the Great Spirit Gathering Array, set up by Han Fei, even Zhang Xuanyu, had broken through to the realm of peak-level dangling fishers a few days ago. For this reason, Han Fei was scolded by Old Bai for a long time, saying that it was because Han Fei had learned too many things that he couldn't make a breakthrough for a long time. Of course, this was quite harsh in the ears of others. Everyone secretly complained, this guy's realm really hasn't improved. But look at his strength. It's much better than a breakthrough. On this day, Han Fei thought hard all night and gained some understanding of killing arrays. The first thing he did in the morning was to run over and pull the hexagon starfish out of the bull conch pit. The hexagon starfish asked, "Why are you here again? It's not dawn yet." Bulsh asterisk T. Can you starfish tell the difference between day and night? Just as Han Fei was about to ask the hexagon starfish questions, he heard Old Bai's voice, "Everyone, gather." Han Fei exclaimed in surprise, "Wow, time's up." The third, asking for votes. One more. End of this chapter. Chapter 598. Soon, Han Fei and the other 6 people, including Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan, gathered. For half a year, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan basically didn't do anything else. Because it was targeted education, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan didn't even continue to fight in the Blue Sea Arena. The reason was that the Thug Academy announced closed training. And the Thug Academy was now very famous, so no one would say anything if they didn't fight in the arena. Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan, who didn't fight, ran around the exclusive training ground of their 5 senior brothers and sisters every day. For example, Han Fei's training ground was on the top of the mountain, and he only stayed in the plantation at night. Lu Renquang was in the plantation all day. Zhang Xuanyu was fighting against a big mountain under Xiao Zhan's small mountain. Xia Xiaochan specially arranged a training ground for herself. At Han Fei's suggestion, she made a large wooden stake formation. However, those so-called wooden stakes were not even as thick as a pinky finger and were frighteningly soft. When Xia Xiaochan didn't practice this, she left it to Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan. The two of them crushed a large area of this large wooden stake formation almost every day and then made up for it themselves. Luo Xiaobai's training ground was naturally the woodland. She had been in the woodland for half a year, and there were all kinds of things growing there. All kinds of flowers and plants, colorful. But that was the last place Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan wanted to go. Because once the two of them walked in there were traps everywhere, and both of them had to be nervous. Of course, the most substantial challenge for Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan was the hill that Han Fei wiped out. There was knife chi all day long. The knife chi contained Han Fei's unique, strange, and invincible knife intent. As long as they went in and walked around, the two of them had to run to Han Fei and cast the divine healing technique on them. Because of all kinds of reasons, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan grew at a terrifying speed. To deal with them, Han Fei and the others suppressed their cultivation to that of advanced great fishing masters. At that time, Han Fei and the others didn't train so crazily. Chu Jinan and the others did this because there were only two of them. At that time, Han Fei and the others went into the sea to explore a secret realm, and all kinds of emergencies could happen at any time. But in the current Thug Academy, these 5 senior brothers and sisters were like the bosses in the sea. As a result, they didn't even need to explore the sea to feel the feeling of fighting a boss in advance. Of course, they were the ones being beaten up. As for the others, all of them were extraordinary. Luo Xiaobai practiced a footwork technique and developed dozens of battle techniques with different spiritual plants, including trapping battles, team battles, and offensive techniques. Xia Xiaochan found 7 or 8 combat skills in the library. She didn't have time to practice them before, but now she did. She practiced all of these battle techniques. Among them, she mainly focused on explosive combat skills. With a set of explosive combat skills, she could fight for 2 minutes straight without stopping. Zhang Xuanyu was painstakingly practicing his staff technique. He had taken the path of creating his own combat skills. The Raging Sea 9-fold staff technique had already been deduced by him to the point of becoming a return to one staff technique. Through this return to one staff technique, he combined it with a spear technique and comprehended the mystic hand-killing spear, only comprehending this move. However, this move was comparable to Lu Renquang's bloodthirsty broadsword and even vaguely comparable to Han Fei's draw technique. Han Fei didn't know what Zhang Xuanyu's brain was made of. According to Zhang Xuanyu himself, he originally wanted to learn Han Fei's void-breaking knife light. However, his 1,000-mile fishing technique was not as good as Han Fei's, and his comprehension of space was not as good as Xia Xiaochan's. Thus, under Xiao Zhan's personal guidance, they went astray as they walked on. On the day he comprehended the mystic hand-killing spear, Han Fei was standing still, and Zhang Xuanyu's spear pierced an inch deep into his flesh. As for Lu Renquang, he was the one who made Han Fei speechless. Han Fei set up a series of spirit absorption arrays, and this place became his home field. Oh my God, in half a year, at least 100 acres of land were eaten up by this guy. When he practiced the sky swallowing technique in the spirit absorption array, he almost blew himself up. In the end, his spirit meridian exploded. For some reason, his spirit meridian became a grade 7 spirit meridian. Han Fei couldn't be more jealous of that thing. Damn it, I haven't even reached a level 6 spiritual heritage yet. This guy sucked his spiritual heritage into a level 7 spiritual heritage, which was the same level as Tang Ge. When his spiritual heritage reached level 7, it caused a chain reaction. The effect of the violent war body doubled, the effect of the bloodthirsty broadsword doubled, and almost all the combat skills he practiced had been doubled. This caused a discussion among the 5 of them. They felt that when their spiritual heritage reached level 7, there would be a qualitative change, which might bring them unexpected gains. At this moment, the 7 of them stood in a row. Among them, Luo Xiaobai's realm was the highest, and she seemed to be only one step away from becoming a hanging fisher. Oh no! To be precise, it was the result of Luo Xiaobai's deliberate suppression. Otherwise, she might have become a hanging fisher by now. After all, they were not short of spiritual fruits now. Therefore, they didn't have to worry about not having enough spiritual energy. Olbai and the other 2 stood in front of everyone. Olbai said, "Tomorrow, all the people selected will set off for the unknown place. This time, we won't be able to return for 4 years." Olbai showed a rare, serious expression, looked at everyone, and said word by word, "And what I want to tell you is that this time, we really can't set foot in it. Unless something earth-shaking happens, we have to break into the unknown place by force." Han Fei was stunned. "We can break in by force?" Olbai glared at Han Fei. "Only I can break in by force. Xiao Zhan, and wondering you are not qualified to break in by force." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Then what if we don't?" Cough, cough. Olbai said, "If we don't break in by force, it's not impossible to go there. But if we go there, we will be suppressed a lot. Think about it. Who wants to have a strong master mess around in their territory?" Lu Rinquang asked, "President, why don't you make a life tablet for us? An immortal seal, an amulet, or something like that?" Everyone turned their heads to look at Lu Rinquang. "You're really reckless. The Thug Academy emphasizes survival and cruelty. Why do you want this?" However, to everyone's surprise, Olbai gently took out a black jade tablet. "Each of you drip a drop of essence blood on it. This is your life tablet. Once the life tablet breaks, we will know." Xiao Zhan waved his hand and threw 5 diamond bracelets to the 5 of them. "This is your amulet. It's strong enough to resist the attack of a junior hidden fisher, but it can only be used a few times. If you are attacked continuously, even an intermediate hanging fisher can break it." Xiao Xiaochan was shocked. "Really?" Olbai said, "As for the immortal seal, Faceless has already given it to you, right? In fact, the effect is the same. If that immortal seal can't save you, the result will be the same if I plant another immortal seal on you. So, now you have a life tablet, an immortal seal, and an amulet." Everyone secretly took a breath. This time, this trip to the unknown place was really a big deal. Otherwise, how could Olbai and the others be so easy to deal with? Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan held their breath and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Judging from this situation, they knew how dangerous this trip would be. They were even more worried than the 5 of them. Olbai said leisurely, "Considering that you will be away from school for a long time this time, and it may even be the last time you will appear here. So, if you have any questions, you can ask them." Han Fei's eyes lit up. "President, why did our Thug Academy decline back then?" Everyone pricked up their ears. They had been wanting to know this for a long time. Olbai rolled his eyes. "Change the question." Everyone was speechless. "Then why did you ask us to change the question?" Xia Xiaochan asked. "President, after we come back from the unknown place, can we break through the 1,000-star city?" Wenren said, "By the way, let me tell you one thing. The 36 towns will send people to the unknown place, but the 1,000-star city will send more people. So if you can break through the unknown place, you will barely break through the 1,000-star city." Olbai nodded and said, "Yes, if the time is right, it's not impossible for our Thug Academy to move. We also have a territory in the 1,000-star city." Huh? Everyone couldn't help but be astonished. Our Thug Academy has a territory in the 1,000-star city. Isn't every inch of land valuable? We haven't been there for 30 years. Do we still have a territory? Then why didn't we go earlier? Did our Thug Academy move from the 1,000-star city back then? For a moment, everyone asked all at once. This news was too shocking. They had thought that the Thug Academy occupying an island in the Blue Sea town was already very impressive. Who would have expected that they would occupy someone else's territory in the 1,000-star city? Olbai said disdainfully, "What a fuss. Can't you ask a few constructive questions?" Xiao Zhan said lightly, For example, about the unknown place itself. Fourth update, asking for votes. The author says, "All right, I've laid my cards on the table. I'll be arriving at the unknown place tomorrow, and it just so happens to be on the 1st of January, which means I'll have 10 updates. The rules for the monthly votes remain the same. Once it's 2,000, I'll get one more update for every 300 more. Everyone, I've laid a lot of groundwork, and I want to be quick as well. I'll try my best to update in January." End of this chapter. Chapter 599. Han Fei and the others were not interested in gossiping at all. Everyone muttered, "Didn't you say that we could ask any question?" Luo Xiaobai immediately changed the topic. "President, what should we pay attention to when we go to the unknown place?" Old Bai said leisurely. "The main thing is to keep a low profile." Han Fei asked weakly. "Sir, are you sure it's not a high profile?" Old Bai pondered for a moment. "The main thing is that even if you are high profile, you may not be able to stand out. As I said, there are many talents there. You think you're high profile enough to be in the limelight, but in reality, others are even better. You sound like I'm looking forward to it." Old Bai coughed and said, "But don't worry too much. Our Thug Academy also has people in the unknown place." Everyone, Wenren Yu and Xiao Zhan both smiled, giving them a strange feeling. His first reaction was Old Jiang and Jiang Qin. These two must be nesting in the unknown place. This time, he had to find them. These were two big shots. He had to hug their thighs. Although the unknown lands were much vaster, they would have to stay there for 4 years, so the chances of them meeting each other were still very high. Xia Xiaochan asked, "Are there any martial uncles?" Lu Renquang asked, "Will this senior uncle rob us?" Old Bai frowned. "Don't ruin your impression of the teachers and students of the Thug Academy just because of Faceless. When you get there, your senior brother Dashuai will come to meet you." "Senior brother Marshall?" "Marshall? What? Does our Thug Academy have a senior brother who is a marshal?" Old Bai paused slightly, and a trace of displeasure flashed in his eyes. "Humph, you'll know when you get there." For some reason, Old Bai seemed to be in a bad mood. Everyone guessed that the senior brother must have had some conflict with the sect again. Otherwise, why hadn't they heard of it ever since they entered the school? Zhang Xuanyi nodded. "Probably at the same level as Uncle Master Faceless. To be able to become a marshal, you must not be weak." However, since Old Bai said that senior brother Dashuai would pick them up, thinking about it, he would be able to see it when the time came, so there was no need to ask too much. Wenren Yu smiled strangely and said, "You need to be careful on this trip. You must not be rash. The unknown lands are not like the 36 towns. Not everyone was easy to talk to. When you get there, follow the rules." Of course, he couldn't be too cowardly and ruin the prestige of the Thug Academy. "You don't need me to teach you such a small matter, do you?" Xiao Zhan nodded and said sternly, "When we get there, don't think about exploring the secret realm every day. The unknown lands were vast and boundless, and the mystic realms in the sea were like stars in the sky. Even in the mystic realms near the sea, there were many that had yet to be discovered. But it's different from the level 3 fishery. You'll know when you get there." Luo Xiaobai suddenly asked, "Sir, will it be difficult for us to team up after we get there?" Xiao Zhan shook his head. "It's not that easy to form a team. Since everyone has different needs, you may do your own thing when you get there. If you get rid of certain restraints, you can still choose to form your own team." Old Bai suddenly said, "Han Fei, come with me. The rest of you stay here and continue to ask questions." Han Fei. After a while, Han Fei and Old Bai came to the library. Han Fei asked in confusion, "President, why do we have to talk in private?" Old Bai threw a few swallowing seashells at him. "I've exchanged your mid-quality pearls for high-quality pearls, a total of 15 million. Don't think it's too little. You can't exchange them for profit. And 2 billion is a bit too much. It's already very rare to exchange for this number on a place like the floating island." Han Fei immediately put on a happy face and put away the swallowing seashells. Although 2 billion could only be exchanged for 15 million, the quality was not comparable at all. If he really took 2 billion mid-quality pearls to the unknown lands, he might not have a place to exchange them. Then, Old Bai handed over Jade's slip. "This is a book on refining. but it's only a preliminary introduction. You can learn refining in the unknown place. I don't know what refining method you have, but I'm afraid it's not simple. When you get to the unknown lands, find a way to get a refiner certificate from the refining hall. Otherwise, you would be able to casually refine supreme-grade spirit artifacts and seal spirits at will. You will definitely be targeted by people with ulterior motives. Han Fei's eyes widened. There's a refiner certificate? Han Fei never expected that there was a certification for this thing. The corners of Old Bai's mouth curled up. That thing is quite valuable. In the unknown lands, the status of refiners is not low, especially the refiners who can seal spirits. They are 1 in a million. Han Fei immediately paid attention. Since Old Bai said so clearly, it could be seen that the status of a refiner who could seal spirits must be outstanding. In fact, there were not many refiners in the Blue Sea town or in the level 3 fishery, and it was extremely rare to seal spirits. On the floating island, it was because most people couldn't afford it. The situation in the level 3 fishery was really treacherous. With a dragon boat nearby, which refiner dared to easily expose himself, Han Fei couldn't help but wonder if he could give full play to his talents in the unknown lands. Han Fei said weakly, "President, do you have anything else to say?" Old Bai pondered for a moment. "I know that when you go to the unknown lands, you will definitely look for that old B***starred old Jiang. However, don't look for him yet. When you need them, you will naturally know where to look for them." Han Fei was surprised. "Why? If I go to the plantation in the unknown lands, I will definitely find them." Old Bai snorted. "Then what will you do after you find them?" Han Fei scratched his head. "Yes, what will I do after I find them?" Old Bai glanced at Han Fei. "Don't think you're great just because you have a sea token. This thing may be a blessing or a curse. In particular, you are still an advanced dangling fisher. Do you still want to explore the secrets of the sea token with your current level?" Han Fei was speechless. "Then can I explore the secrets of the sea token with my current level?" Old Bai thought for a moment and said, "When will the number of stars on your waist tag become 7? Maybe you will be qualified to explore it." 7. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. In the 36-town exchange competition, a total of 100 3-star waist tags were issued. These were the top 100 among countless students in the 36 major towns. It could be seen that it would not be easy to get one more star. Old Bai asked for 7 stars. "What does 7-star waist tag mean?" Seeing that Han Fei was stunned, Old Bai said, "Go ahead. You can take the hexagon starfish, but leave the ghost-eyed giant crocodile. Of course, if any of you can really take that thing as your contractual spiritual beast, you can also take it away." Han Fei thought for a moment. He didn't want it. The demon purification pot wouldn't be able to use it for a while. Besides, his contractual spiritual beasts were all legendary. Why would he want a legendary one? After talking with Old Bai, Han Fei patted his butt and walked to Shaozhan's small mountain. In the past half a year, the hexagon starfish had almost become a hexagon sea pig. As for the ghost-eyed giant crocodile, since it came to this place, it had been in a panic all day long. A mysterious creature was bullied every day, which was unbelievable. It was just a legendary creature, so it had better keep a low profile in case anyone would care about it. But fortunately, Han Fei and the others were leaving, and the 3 big teachers didn't bother to talk to it. Even a small force dared not provoke it. Relatively speaking, the ghost-eyed giant crocodile found that it was much more comfortable than the hexagon starfish. Besides, the spiritual energy here was not low, so it promised Old Bai to be a guardian spiritual beast for a few years. However, the ghost-eyed giant crocodile liked to lie in the plantation because the spiritual energy there was high. The hexagon starfish was a lazy star. It only felt that the bull conch pit was the most comfortable and let the bull conches massage it every day. At this moment, 2 bull conches were crushing the 2 tentacles of the hexagon starfish. This guy was lazily basking in the sun, a bit too comfortable. Han Fei said with a black face, "Get over here." The hexagon starfish said, "Are you going to talk about arrays again? I really don't understand. The arrays of starfish are all inherited." "I don't know much." Han Fei grinned. "Do you remember the card I asked you about?" The hexagon starfish rolled its big eyes. I was too young 300 years ago. I really forgot where the black card came from. Han Fei chuckled. It doesn't matter if you don't know. I'll take you back to the old place. The hexagon starfish rolled its big eyes and suddenly became cautious. Where? I'm not leaving. This is my home. I'm not leaving. Han Fei directly took out its essence blood and said, "Oh, did I invite a master back to worship me? Forget it. This essence blood is useless. Just squeeze it." Hey. Wait a minute. Let's talk. Han Fei's eyes narrowed. Get out of here. I've let you enjoy it for so long. It's time to work. The hexagon starfish. Han Fei grabbed a tentacle and waved his hand, and a large mass of clean water wrapped the hexagon starfish. A few minutes later, a palm-sized hexagon starfish clung to Han Fei's shoulder. You said you would return the essence blood to me. Han Fei said leisurely. You have been living in my house for more than half a year, and there are big bull conches massaging you every day. Do you think it's free? The labor contract will be renewed for 4 years, and I will return it to you after 4 years. The hexagon starfish, the first chapter, asking for votes, into this chapter. Chapter 600. When Han Fei returned to the team, Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but be surprised. Big starfish is going with us. The hexagon starfish seemed to be grasping at the last straw. I'm not leaving. This is my home. I'm not leaving, as if he didn't hear it. Han Fei nodded and said, Yes, this guy takes up too many resources in the school. I'll reluctantly bring it along with me. Liren Kuang chuckled. Senior hexagon starfish, let's go. The more the merrier. The hexagon starfish rolled its big eyes. I'm a starfish. In order to go to the unknown place, everyone prepared for a full 6 months. Not only them, but all the people who went with them didn't dare to slack off in the past 6 months. Even those who were eliminated in the first round of the exchange competition did not dare to slack off. This was because their teacher had said that with their aptitude, if they didn't wish to die, they had to cultivate to the point of death. At this moment, the 5 of them stood at the school gate, and Han Fei glanced at the school sign. The words on the sign were carved by him. Zhang Xuanyu said slowly, How many times has it been? It's going to take a long time this time. Xia Xiaochan said, I'll be back. Liren Kuang sighed. My good day. It's a pity that it ended just like that. Luo Xiaobai said casually, This is still just a trial. Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan were standing at the school gate, looking at them eagerly. In their hearts, they were the best senior brother and senior sister. Among them, Zhang Xuanyu and Liren Kuang were the best because they were not easily crazy. Of course, Han Fei and the others were also fine. However, Han Fei and the others always abused them in all kinds of ways, which they couldn't bear. Chu Jinan said, Senior brother, senior sister, take good care of yourselves over there. Han Fei frowned and said, What are you talking about? You make it sound like we're parting forever. Ling Yuan said, Senior sister, I will miss you. Zhang Xuanyu said unhappily, Why do you miss senior sister? Don't you miss your senior brother? Especially me, senior brother you. Ling Yuan stuck out her tongue and said, Yeah. Xia Xiaochan said, Let's go back. We're leaving. Han Fei said to the 2 of them, By the way, I just went to the mountain and shook the hill again. Your saber chi is even more abundant now, so make good use of it. Chu Jinan, Ling Yuan, Xiao Zhan, and Wenren Yu took the 5 of them to the teleportation array, but Old Bai didn't come out. 2 hours later, the few of them leisurely strolled to the teleportation array and found that many people from the 3 academies were already standing there. Xiao Zhan patted their shoulders. This is a hurdle we can't avoid. Everyone in the Thug Academy has to take this step. Work hard. Finally, Wenren Yu said to the 5 of them, When you get there, remember not to be too hasty. Steady and sure is the best strategy. If you have any questions, feel free to look for your senior brother Dashuai. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Got it, master. Let's go. Wenren Yu waved her hand. Go. Be careful. The other students from the 3 great academies were there as well. However, at this moment, no one liked Han Fei and the others very much. There was no conflict of interest, and even Li Hani's anger had almost dissipated. It was mainly because Li Hani had realized the gap between them. If he could still fight with Han Fei and the others in the past, now he couldn't even fight with them. However, when everyone saw that Han Fei was still an advanced dangling fisher, they couldn't help but be stunned. Hasn't this guy made a breakthrough after half a year? At this moment, Luo Xiaobai walked in the crowd and looked at Han Fei. When can you make a breakthrough? Han Fei smiled and said, don't worry. Let's go there and have a look first. Xiao Xiaochan pinched Han Fei's flesh. Alas, I can't stab you anymore. Han Fei, the teleportation array leading to the unknown place was set up separately. At this moment, the reason why so many people were waiting here was mainly to say goodbye to their families. The other students who hadn't said goodbye were waiting for those who had said goodbye and were ready to leave together. Xiao Zhan and Wenren didn't come in, probably because they didn't like that kind of disgusting farewell scene. Therefore, the 5 of them walked directly to the teleportation array, ready to pass directly. But they heard someone shout, Han Fei, wait a minute. Han Fei looked back, only to find it was Xiang Zuozhua, the violent woman. Han Fei smiled and said, what's the matter? Xiang Zuozhua pulled Han Fei aside, glanced at Xia Xiaochan, and said to Han Fei via voice transmission, someone asked me to bring you a message. Han Fei curled his lips. Huh? Xiang Zuozhua rolled her eyes and said, can you be more serious? He Xiao Yu is a good girl. She just told you to pay attention to your safety and that you must be told. What do you want to say? I'll ask my classmates to bring it back for you. Han Fei thought for a while. Live a good life. Don't yearn for the infinite ocean. Xiang Zuozhua. Han Fei waved his hand. Let's go. Xiang Zuozhua stomped her foot. Han Fei saw Xia Xiaochan and grinned. It's okay. Let's go. Xia Xiaochan glanced to Han Fei slyly. I didn't ask. They came to the teleportation array. There were guards standing in the way. Seeing Han Fei and the others, although they knew them, they still said, waist tags. Han Fei and the others took out their 3-star waist tags, and the guard nodded and let them in. Without any hesitation, they stepped into the teleportation array without looking back. Outside, Wenren sighed slightly. Let's go. Xiao Zhan nodded. Okay, let's go back. Wenren turned her head and sighed again. Do you think that if they continue to grow at this speed, will they repeat the mistakes of those years? Xiao Zhan shook his head slightly. It won't be easy. They haven't reached that point yet. Han Fei felt his eyes light up. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw were 2 tables, 6 hanging fishers in battle suits, and behind them was the clear sky and misty clouds. In the sky, floating island? Han Fei looked back, only to gasp in shock. This portal was a bit too big. Yes, Han Fei saw a super teleportation array hundreds of meters high. The front and back of the huge teleportation formation were empty. It looked like a huge eye in the sky. Visitors, hang your waist tag. In front, 2 hanging fishers were sitting at the table. One of them said lightly, not seeming to be in a hurry. Han Fei looked over and glanced at the waists of these people. Among them, the 2 people who were sitting had 5 stars on their waist tokens. The other 4 people had 4 stars on their waist badges. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, this waist tag is graded. However, this waist tag is too shitty, isn't it? How could 2 random people from the other party have 5-star waist tokens? They're the top 100 powerhouses in the 36 towns, but they only have 3-star waist tags? Han Fei and the others hung their waist tags on their waist tags. At the moment when the 3-star waist tags appeared, the eyes of the hanging fishers lit up. Another person said, come here to sign in. Luo Xiaobai took the lead to walk down. There were obsidian steps under her feet, and on both sides of the steps, there were 100-meter-high statues of soul warriors holding war sticks. When they came to the table, a person next to them said lazily, after signing in, wait aside and refine the waist tag. Huh? Luo Xiaobai frowned slightly. Can this waist tag be refined? The man said lightly, of course. In the future, if something happens to you, the waist tag will shatter together with you, and we will know. Xia Xiaochan said, so, this is equivalent to the life tablet of the unknown place. The man nodded. You can say that. 3-star waist tag. It seems that you are very talented and won't die so easily. But the waist tag is not only a life tablet. We'll talk about it when everyone is here. After signing in, Han Fei and the others went to an open space dozens of meters away to wait. There were already about 20 people standing here. A drop of essence blood fell into the waist tag, and the waist tag suddenly burst out with a green light, and the 3 stars flickered. Han Fei frowned. He actually had a connection with this waist tag. At this time, he heard a hanging fisher say, "After you refine the waist tag, it doesn't matter even if you lose it. The star will automatically appear in the palm of your hand. If you exceed 100 kilometers, the waist tag will shatter. You could buy a new one then." In the teleportation array, people appeared one after another. Those hanging fishers had no time to talk to Han Fei and the others, but explained to the newcomers. Xiao Xiaochan suddenly pulled Han Fei and said, "Look, there are steps over there, leading to the sky." Everyone followed Xiao Xiaochan's gaze, only to see that in the clouds, there seemed to be layers of steps leading to the sky and disappearing into the clouds. Who knew where they would go? Woo! Squeak! Suddenly, above the distant sky, an ethereal voice reverberated in all directions. Han Fei's face immediately changed. A whale! Han Fei knew what it was as soon as he heard it. The whale emitted ultrasonic waves, which humans shouldn't be able to hear, but cultivators could feel it. This voice was so ethereal that it was shocking. If it wasn't a whale, what was it? The next moment, the clouds broke, and an extremely huge whale head poked out of the clouds. As the fish's body twisted downwards, everyone finally saw the true face of the big fish. Everyone was dumbfounded at this moment. The hexagon starfish climbed to Han Fei's neck and stared at him with big eyes. "What a big creature!" Xiao Xiaochan swallowed. "What a big fish!" Lu Rinquang asked. "How many meals does it have to eat?" Second update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 601. Han Fei and the others, including those who had just come out of the teleportation portal, were all stunned. The first reaction in everyone's heart was, "Why is the fish in the sky?" Whoa! As if it was a song from the ninth heaven, the ethereal voice echoed in the sky and echoed in the distant sky. Only when it drew closer did everyone realize just how big this whale was. Its huge body, which was more than 300 meters long, made people subconsciously realize how small they were. Its body was like a towering mountain, and its mouth was not open, but Han Fei felt that if it was open, it would be like a waterfall in the sky, with waves in it. The white spots on its dorsal fin, each one different. From time to time, a burst of white mist sprayed out from the gills on its back. As for its eyes, in its dark eyes, there was only a glimmer of light occasionally. Just like its voice, its eyes seemed to be full of endless loneliness. The whale's voice roared 3,000 times, and the butterfly's dream echoed 100 times. Han Fei was really shocked, so that when the giant whale had already swam close, he found a piece of information in his eyes. Name: Cloud Whale, Introduction. Above the sea of clouds, a lonely whale, riding the wind, drifting freely between the sea and the sky. The cloud whale has the bloodline of the ancient Kuan Peng, but it is extremely friendly. If it is extremely angry, its voice will echo for 3,000 kilometers, but it will not attack. Level 50, Quality, Legendary, contains spiritual energy greater than 15,565 points. Edible effect. Inedible, collectible, none, unabsorbable. A hanging fisher laughed. A group of little guys who have never seen the world. This is a cloud whale, which has been wandering in the unknown place for more than 800 years. You can sit on its back later, but you are not allowed to beat it. Otherwise, you will be thrown down from the sky. Han Fei couldn't help asking, "Why do we have to ride the cloud whale? Can't we let it soar freely between heaven and earth?" The hanging fisher was taken aback for a moment and then smiled. "What do you know? This is all voluntary. It likes to fly with people on its back. Otherwise, it will be very lonely. It doesn't even have a companion. What do you know?" Of course, Han Fei couldn't understand it, but he did know it. He once met Alice, the loneliest whale in the world. It was a unique whale. A normal whale's frequency was between 15 and 25 hertz, but Alice's frequency was only 52 hertz. The world sighed and said that there was a kind of loneliness called 52 hertz. Because of its unique frequency, it did not have any relatives or friends in the vast ocean. No other whale could hear the song it sang, and no other whale could understand its sorrow. Immediately, Han Fei waved at the cloud whale. "Hey, big guy, I have good food here." So, Han Fei grabbed a yellow-blooded sea cucumber and shook it left and right. Seeing that someone was interacting with it, the cloud whale immediately let out a cry. Han Fei threw the yellow-blooded sea cucumber into the sky, and the huge cloud whale naughtily turned over, revealing its white belly, and then opened its mouth, waiting for the yellow-blooded sea cucumber to fall into its mouth. "Me too. Give me a yellow-blooded sea cucumber." Han Fei handed one to each of them. This was an inexplicable joy. Creatures like whales usually wouldn't hurt people, especially cloud whales. He would be able to gain the goodwill of others at the first moment. Even Luo Xiaobai couldn't help but throw out a yellow-blooded sea cucumber. The hanging fisher hurriedly shouted, "You 5 bastards, the yellow-blooded sea cucumber contains so much energy. Do you want to kill the cloud whale?" Liu Rinquang was stunned. "But the cloud whale is so big. It needs a lot of energy, right?" The hanging fisher said, "Although the size of the cloud whale is related to the amount of energy it needs, the gap is not as exaggerated as you think. 5 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers are enough. Don't throw any more." Woo! The cloud whale was so happy that it flew into the clouds. Then it fell freely from the clouds. When it was still 100 meters away from Han Fei and the others, the Kong Sai on its back sprayed a mouthful of mist at them. The cool mist attracted many people's cheers. It took a full half an hour for all the people to arrive. At this time, the 300 people all ran to the cliff of this floating island to see the cloud whale. Yes, this was also a floating island, but its size was very small, only tens of kilometers in size at most. The end of the island could be seen at a glance. They had seen a lot of floating islands, but it was the first time in their lives to see the cloud whale. When everyone arrived, several hanging fishers said solemnly, "Don't make any more noise. Get on the back of the cloud whale." At this moment, the cloud whale had jumped out of the clouds again and flew to the edge of the cliff. Han Fei and the others took the lead and jumped onto the back of the cloud whale. This was an absolutely novel feeling, completely different from the feeling of flying by themselves. One after another, all 300 people jumped up. Then a 5-star hanging fisher and 2 4-star hanging fishers also stood on the cloud whale. They stood not far in front of Han Fei and the others, facing the crowd. The hanging fisher shouted, "Little cloud, let's go." Woo! The cloud whale slammed down, and the wind whistled in everyone's ears. It was so exciting. Feeling the hexagon starfish on his shoulder, Han Fei said to the hexagon starfish via voice transmission, "Don't move. Don't be noticed." The hexagon starfish replied, "I'm not moving. I'm afraid of falling down." Han Fei was speechless and ignored it. Han Fei cast his gaze at the cloud-like steps in the distance and asked, "Senior, what are those steps for?" The hanging fisher glanced at the steps and said with a smile, "This is the skyward ladder. If you are strong enough in the future, you could try to climb this ladder and use it to go straight to the 9 heavens and reach the 1,000-star city." Everyone was shocked. "From here, we can reach the 1,000-star city?" For a time, many people had wild thoughts. Among the major towns, only the Wind Thunder Town had a teleportation array to the 1,000-star city. Besides, it was said that if you wanted to use that teleportation array, the requirements were extremely strict and not everyone could go there. If you could go up from the skyward ladder, wouldn't it be a great advantage? However, the hanging fisher sneered. "I said you can try to climb it. This skyward ladder is both a passage and an assessment, and not everyone can climb it. Besides, you don't have a chance to climb it now. Let's survive in the unknown place first." During the soaring of the cloud whale, the leading hanging fisher's face became more and more serious, and finally he said in a cold voice, "Don't regard the unknown place as a tourist place. This is a battlefield of life and death. After you go down, someone will be responsible for receiving you. The command post of the unknown place has arranged a way for all of you. If you have any objections, you can negotiate and understand them by yourself. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Everyone, huh?" The hanging fisher thought for a moment. "Yes, sort of. You have 3 stars and you have a lot of choices. After you go down, someone will naturally tell you what to do and where to go." After passing through several layers of clouds in a row, when the cloud whale passed through the last cloud, their field of vision suddenly became clear. The boundless ocean finally came into everyone's sight like a timid girl. However, what shocked everyone was not the sea. What caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air was that there was an incomparably huge island in everyone's field of vision. Yes, in just an instant, everyone understood that the so-called unknown place was actually an island. This island was so big that looking down from the sky, they couldn't see the end at a glance. On the island, there were mountain ranges, ravines, abysses, empyrean waterfalls, and city walls around the sea. The hanging fisher in front of them shouted coldly, "Don't be fooled by the scenery in front of you. This is an island that swallows people. This island is called Scattered Stars. Do you know why it's called Scattered Stars? Look at the medallions on your waists. There are countless people like you who have fallen here, who have withered away." This person's tone became more and more serious, and then he pointed to the coast and said, "Look, that's a man-eating coast. On the Scattered Stars Island, there are dozens of beaches, such as the Skeleton Coast, Hell Beach, Ghost Coast, Red Tide Coast." The hanging fisher pointed to the mountain range and said, "Do you see that mountain range? It stretches for 800 kilometers and is known as the Transverse Mountain Range, which is full of dangers. Do you see the big waterfall shining with pale red? That's called the Empyrean Waterfall, and there are white bones under the waterfall. Do you see the green jungle connecting the Transverse Mountain Range? That's called the Twisted Jungle, one on the island, one in the sea." For a moment, everyone was frightened when they heard this. A bunch of unfamiliar place names came out of the hanging fisher's mouth, and what he finally expressed was, it was extremely dangerous here. When everyone was still surprised by what the hanging fisher said, suddenly, someone pointed to the distant sky in surprise and said, "Look, what's that in the sky?" "It's birds. Oh my God, it's a flock of birds." The students from the Blue Sea Town had all seen birds in the Wind Thunder Town. But at that time, only one appeared, which surprised everyone. There was a flock of birds here, and there were hundreds of them flying in the sky. Han Fei couldn't help murmuring, "Oh my, there are not only floating islands in this world, but also islands and continents." Han Fei couldn't help but look up and say, "Senior, in the infinite ocean, are there many sea islands like the Scattered Stars Island?" Those who were interested could go and listen to the sound of 52 hertz into this chapter. Chapter 602. The hanging fisher paused for a moment and then looked into the distance. "I don't know if there are other places like the Scattered Stars Island. I hope that there's only one Scattered Stars Island in this world." The cloud whale was not slow. In the sky, it skipped the small coastline and flew directly into the depths of the island. As for the birds in the sky, when they saw the cloud whale, they had already turned in another direction. The Scattered Stars Island was very large. According to the hanging fisher, this island spanned more than 1,800 kilometers. According to the legend, at the beginning, the island was full of dangerous places. He said that in the past hundreds of years, the island had become much safer, and Han Fei and the others came at the right time. Many places had changed from dangerous places to safe areas. After flying for about half an hour, the cloud whale was less than a kilometer from the ground. They had seen many flocks of birds passing through the sky, but they didn't approach the cloud whale. At this time, Han Fei and the others could already see the pedestrians on the ground. Some people were carrying huge sea monsters and walking, and some were controlling fishing boats to fly away at low altitude. The buildings on the ground were much more gorgeous than Han Fei and the others had imagined. Dozens of kilometers ahead of them, there was a port and a big river on the island, which was the target of the cloud whale. To Han Fei's surprise, there were actually a lot of people on the Scattered Stars Island. On the contrary, people came and went. The hanging fisher said, "Don't think it looks like there are a lot of people. Think about it. Have you ever seen a few hanging fishers in your town? No. Then where have they all gone?" Someone exclaimed, Have they all come to the unknown place? The hanging fisher smiled. Of course. Otherwise, why do you think there's so many people on the Scattered Stars Island? There is no free lunch in this world. After enjoying so many years of peaceful life, do you really think you don't need to pay anything? Han Fei and the others finally realized that they were right. They had never realized before that in such a large town with a population of millions, there were only a few hanging fishers and hidden fishers in a world where all the citizens cultivated. At that time, they even thought that these people would go to the Thousand-Star City when they reached a certain level. But now it seemed that this was not the case at all. If they all went to the Thousand-Star City, wouldn't the Thousand-Star City explode from the constant supply of the 36 towns? Soon, the cloud whale slowly descended beside the lake. It was not afraid of strangers and floated directly in the lake. After they jumped off the back of the cloud whale, Han Fei took out a big crab and stuffed it into the cloud whale's mouth. Big guy, thank you for the ride. What's a free ride? Nothing. Woo. The cloud whale opened its mouth slightly, and Han Fei stuffed the crab in. The cloud whale closed its mouth, and with a crunch, the crab was crushed. Seeing this, the three hanging fishers didn't speak, as long as it wasn't a yellow-blooded sea cucumber. It wouldn't be a problem for the cloud whale to eat as much as it wanted. But the problem was this young man here for a vacation? Why is the sea-swallowing seashell full of food? When the others all came down, the cloud whale swallowed a mouthful of water, spat it out, and then soared up. Han Fei looked up and sighed with emotion. The great rock rises with the wind and soars up to 90,000 kilometers. TSK, the legendary Kuan Peng is just like this, isn't it? Luo Xiaobai said. That's interesting. It's quite smooth. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. How could Li Bai's poem not be smooth? The others didn't understand poetry and just felt that Han Fei's words were strange. When Han Fei and the others looked at the shore, they found that there were already a lot of people around the shore, nearly 1,000 people. Luren Kuang said, Why? Why are there so many people? A student from the other 3 academies said, I saw a senior brother from our academy. My senior sister is here. Seeing that many people recognized their alumni, Han Fei couldn't help but say, Our senior brother is a marshal. He can't be here in person, can he? Zhang Xuanyu couldn't help asking, Senior, do you know where the marshal lives? The hanging fisher sneered and said, General, are you talking about the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island? There's only one marshal on the Scattered Stars Island, and that is Xue Shenqi, the god of war. The supreme commander? Han Fei and the others couldn't help but look at each other. This is a bit too King awesome. Luren Kuang said with a smile, So awesome? Our senior brother is the supreme commander? Puff. The 3 hanging fishers next to him looked at each other. Is he bragging? Is this Xue Shenqi's junior brother? How could Xue Shenqi have such a weak junior brother? Before they reached the shore, they heard someone shouting, Where is Xiang's Wazhua? Where is Xiang's Wazhua? Is Zhongyu here? Lihani, who is Lihani? Come quickly. Who is Lin Xingmu? Come here and let me have a look at my new teammates. The Pioneer Group is recruiting. Those with 2 stars can give up their sideline and come with us. You guys won't miss out on eating and drinking. Does anyone want to join the Dark Hunter Legion? It's better to join the Dark Hunter Legion than to go to the front line. Come on, the Dangling Fishers Union is recruiting. Sign up first. It won't affect you to go to your post. Recruiting alchemy apprentices. Does anyone want to join us? Purely sideline, 100 high-quality pearls per month. Recruiting refining apprentices. Purely sideline, people with a solid foundation are needed. It won't affect your main profession. 100 high-quality pearls per month. Xia Xiaochan said to everyone via voice transmission, 100 high-quality pearls per month. We seem to have a lot of money. When Han Fei came, he gave each of them 25 million high-quality pearls and kept 10 million for himself. Even so, when they heard the price of 100 high-quality pearls, they still felt that they were rich. The 3 hanging fishers suddenly stopped and said to everyone, Find the person who called your name first, get to know the situation first, and then make your own choice. Then, the 5-star hanging fisher said with a strange look Why don't you wait in front? If you are really the marshal's junior brother, someone should come to pick you up." After saying that, they left and walked towards a circular building not far away. Phew, they're finally gone. Only then did the hexagon starfish relax from Han Fei's shoulder. Han Fei shrugged his shoulders. "You are now an ornament. Don't talk and don't move. Let's get to know the situation here first. Then I'm going to sleep." At this moment, someone shouted, "Luo Xiaobai, is Luo Xiaobai here? Where is Zhang Xuanyu? Which one is Zhang Xuanyu?" Han Fei. Han Fei. Please answer if you hear me." Han Fei saw that it was not the same person who called them. Obviously, it was not the marshal that Olbai mentioned at all. Han Fei said, "Let's go to the person who called our name first and get to know the situation. Don't promise me what we are going to do. Let's get to know the situation first and wait for that senior brother to find us." With that said, everyone nodded and dispersed. The person who called Han Fei's name was a valiant woman in a battle suit. There was a scar on this woman's eyebrow, and she was quarreling with a person next to her. "Don't push me. Do you want to take advantage of me? Why don't you take a good look at yourself? Who the hell wants to take advantage of you? Woman, stand aside. Hey, you look down on women, don't you? Fight me next door if you have the guts. I'm not afraid of you. You're quite arrogant." Cough, cough. "Well, why don't you quarrel later? Let's get down to business first." When the two of them turned around, they saw a dignified and rather handsome young man standing in front of them. When a woman who claimed to be his mother saw the 3 stars on Han Fei's waist, she said in a daze, "You are Han Fei?" Han Fei grinned and smiled. "I guess you are definitely not sent by the marshal." The woman was taken aback. "Marshal? How does the marshal know a nobody like me? You are Han Fei, right?" Han Fei grinned and said, "If you're just looking for a person named Han Fei, then congratulations, you have found him." However, the woman frowned and shouted, "Are you kidding me? This is the captain arranged for us? What is this? An advanced dangling fisher?" Han Fei. Han Fei was dumbfounded. "No, wait a minute. What captain? What do you mean?" The woman looked at Han Fei up and down for a long time and finally said, "Boy, tell me first, how did you get the 3 stars? Han Fei glanced at the waist tag on his waist and said timidly, "Is it hard to get this thing?" The woman's eyes almost spurted fire. "Can you please get rid of the dirt? Hurry up and tell me. How did you get the 3 stars as an advanced dangling fisher? Did you get it through the back door? If you got it through the back door, we don't want it." Han Fei asked, "You? Who are you referring to?" Fourth update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 603. Han Fei tried to be patient, but he frowned too. First of all, I got the 3-star title with my own strength. Second, hurry up and tell me what's going on. I don't know anything yet. The woman frowned and said, "We are senior scouts of the 37th Squad of the 8th Brigade under the 3rd Regiment of the Skeleton Shore. I've received news from above that a 3-star captain will be coming over today." Han Fei glanced at his badge. "So, I'm your captain now?" "Bullshit. This old lady won't admit it. You are just an advanced dangling fisher. What makes you think you could be the captain of 4 hanging fishers?" Han Fei was speechless. No matter how good-tempered he was, Olbai had told him to keep a low profile, so he couldn't tolerate it at all. She was originally a pretty good girl. If not for the scars on her face, she would be a really good girl. Why did she speak so harshly? Han Fei's face immediately darkened. "Girl, watch your mouth. Don't be so old, why should I? What right does yours truly have to be your captain? Why don't you try hitting me?" Beside the girl, a group of people were preparing to watch the show. At this moment, hearing what Han Fei said, he couldn't help laughing. Cough, cough. "That 3-star kid, are you crazy? This woman is a junior hanging fisher after all. Beat you? Beating you is like playing a game. Young man, don't be so arrogant. Keep a low profile in the unknown lands." Han Fei was speechless. "I've been keeping a low profile. Normally, I would have already punched him. Can I stand here and be scolded for half a day?" The woman squinted at Han Fei and said, "Are you sure? According to the files, you are both a soul warrior and a spirit gatherer. You can't block my sword." Han Fei smiled contemptuously. "Come on, whether I can block it or not, won't you know once you try? I'm a spirit gatherer myself. I can heal myself. The woman's brows relaxed slightly. You're quite broad-minded, but I wonder if your strength is as strong as you say? Han Fei stepped back and shrugged. Come on, have a try. In the blink of an eye, a high-grade spiritual long sword appeared in the woman's hand. Without any hesitation, a set of chain sword skills burst out. It was extremely fast and powerful. However, in everyone's eyes, Han Fei just moved his feet slightly. With the smallest movement, he easily avoided all the sword chi. It looked thrilling, but he missed by a hair's breadth every time. While dodging, Han Fei said casually, "Is this only 30% of my strength? Why don't you give it a try?" The woman's eyes hardened, and her speed suddenly doubled. The sword chi swept across, making light and shadows flicker around Han Fei, and waves splashed. For a moment, everyone's attention was focused on him. Han Fei still didn't fight back, but his body flickered even faster. He made all kinds of strange movements one after another, but none of them hit him. Han Fei still smiled and said, "That's what a hanging fisher should be like. However, you haven't used your full strength yet, right? What percentage was this? 60 or 70%? 13 star-shattering swords. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, the sword light formed a net, and the sword light was dazzling. Many people looked solemn. Although she didn't use her spiritual beast or contractual spiritual beast, her swordsmanship showed that this woman was really not weak. However, Han Fei's figure flew back dozens of meters on the water. He punched out, and the golden light on his fist was dazzling, and his fist power was unstoppable. With a bang, he smashed the sword net with one punch. Han Fei thought to himself, "Old Bai said to keep a low profile, so I'd better keep a low profile." But it didn't seem good to show off too much. The woman on the opposite side had already leaped into the air, and the long sword in her hand drew a gorgeous arc and slashed straight down. Whatever, I have to be recognized by others first. This is not too high profile, right? Han Fei's eyes turned slightly cold, and he suddenly clapped his hands, directly clamping the extremely sharp, high-quality spiritual weapon with both palms. The billowing spiritual energy swept past Han Fei's face, causing the water to splash. Wow, he caught the sword with his bare hands? This kid has a strong physique. Sure enough, anyone who can get a 3-star rank can't be simple. This squad of scouts has made a big fortune. Seeing that the woman in front of him was full of astonishment, Han Fei couldn't help but grin. Now, am I qualified? The woman blinked her eyes, put away her sword, and simply cupped her fists at Han Fei. "I'm Yu Lingyun, from the 37th Squad of the 8th Battalion under the 3rd Column. Nice to meet you, Captain." Cough, cough. Han Fei was speechless. This woman was so straightforward. After confirming Han Fei's strength, she no longer looked down on him. She no longer pretended that her realm was higher, but bowed to him. That made Han Fei a little embarrassed. Han Fei quickly said, "Well, Miss Yu, why don't you tell me what's going on first? What scouts? Also, what's our main mission in this unknown place? Where are we going, and what are we going to do?" At this point, the excitement was over. Yu Lingyun grinned and, under the envious gazes of many people, pulled Han Fei to an empty space nearby. Yu Lingyun said, "Here's the thing. The Scattered Stars Island is actually a giant battlefield, and almost everyone on the Scattered Stars Island has a clear job arrangement. For example, we are responsible for the reconnaissance mission on the Skeleton Shore. Once something happens on the Skeleton Shore, we have to inform all parties immediately and be ready to fight and sacrifice ourselves." Han Fei was stunned. "So, we're here to fight?" Yu Lingyun nodded. "You can say that, but not exactly. To be more precise, we're here to rob resources." "Rob resources?" Yu Lingyun put on a ferocious sneer. "Everywhere around the Scattered Stars Island is our battlefront. We need to fight the sea demons for spirit awakening fluid, spiritual stones, materials, and floating stones." Han Fei felt that his brain wasn't working very well. But after hearing about spirit awakening fluid, he couldn't help but be stunned. "So, The spirit awakening fluid in the countless villages under the jurisdiction of the Thousand-Star City is all supplied by the Scattered Stars Island. Yuling Yun nodded solemnly. Yes, it's all at the risk of our lives. Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. Every year, countless people in the major villages and towns received spirit awakening. At that time, it was likely that no one would have known that every innate spirit awakening came with a price. Han Fei couldn't help but ask seriously, "Is it hard to get spirit awakening fluid?" Yuling Yun nodded deeply. Extremely rare. Even on the Scattered Stars Island, the price of spirit awakening fluid is high. A caddy of spirit awakening fluid costs as high as 5,000 high-quality pearls or the same amount of credit points, and there's no market for it. So high. Han Fei couldn't help but gasp. The price was much more expensive than he thought. Han Fei couldn't help but remember the price that Uncle Faceless sold it to him, 300,000 mid-quality pearls per caddy. Even if it was converted into high-quality pearls at the highest exchange rate, it would only be 3,000 per caddy. But in fact, according to Old Buy, 2 billion mid-quality pearls could only be exchanged for 15 million high-quality pearls, which was much lower than the exchange rate. So, when they were in the level 3 fishery, Uncle Faceless sold the spirit awakening fluid to them at almost half of the lowest price on the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei immediately felt a pang of heartache. If he had known this, he would have used all his wealth to buy spirit awakening fluid. "Captain, you don't look well." Cough, cough. "No, nothing. I'm just shocked by the price." Han Fei secretly took a breath. It seemed that the spirit awakening fluid was far more precious than he thought. No, he couldn't come here for nothing. He had to find a way to get more spirit awakening fluid. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Well, why did I become her captain?" Yuling Yu nodded. Of course, it was arranged by the higher-ups. According to the number of people in different teams and the battle damage, corresponding replacements will be made. 3 months ago, our captain died on the Skeleton Shore. So, the higher-ups arranged a new captain for us. With that, Yuling Yun looked at Han Fei's waist tag. "If you want to be a captain, you must have a 3-star rank." Han Fei also looked at his waist tag and then asked, "Under normal circumstances, what contribution do I need to make to get a 3-star rank?" "Credit points." Yuling Yun took out her waist tag and said, "On the Scattered Stars Island, anything can be exchanged for points, and you can also exchange points for many things you need. For example, this high-quality spiritual weapon in my hand needs 500 points to be exchanged." Han Fei was stunned. "Then aren't points equal to money?" Yuling Yu nodded and then said, "Points are almost equal to high-quality pearls, but they are more valuable than high-quality pearls. There are many things that can't be bought with high-quality pearls, but few things can't be bought with points." Han Fei asked, "Can I buy spirit awakening fluid with points?" 5th update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 604. Yuling Yun was stunned by Han Fei's question. "Brother, do you know how hard it is to get points? You're using points to buy spirit awakening fluid? Do you have too much money to burn?" "Yes." Faced with Han Fei's question, Yuling Yun could only nod. "However, I don't recommend it. Captain, you don't even have a single point right now. Even if you did, it would cost 5,000 points per caddy. It's not worth it." "Not worth it?" Han Fei did not think so. The effect of spirit awakening fluid was unbelievable. Speed up the growth of spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts. As long as there was enough spirit awakening fluid, the super fighters like the 3 powerful legendary creatures wouldn't be too strong. Suddenly, he looked at Xia Xiaochan and the others and asked, "By the way, if I join your team, what about my former teammates?" Yuling Yun was anxious to hear that. Don't worry. First of all, your position as captain was arranged by the higher-ups. Secondly, since you used to be a team, you can often meet each other on your days off. If they were close, it would be fine even if they saw each other every day. After all, we're not the only team of scouts. There are others who take turns." Hearing the urgency in Yuling Yun's words, Han Fei frowned and asked, "Is the Scattered Stars Island short of manpower?" Behind Yuling Yun, thousands of people were fighting for people. Having no choice, Yu Lingyun could only press her temples with her fingers. Yes. Otherwise, why would they come to snatch him away? Pondering for a moment, Han Fei said, "Wait a moment. I need to talk to my teammates." Han Fei shouted at Xia Xiaochan and the others. Xia Xiaochan, Lu Kwang. "Let's talk here. Come here." Being greeted by Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan and the others came over with the receptionist assigned by their organization. When she saw Xia Xiaochan and the others, Yu Lingyun was stunned. "Does everyone in your team have 3 stars?" Han Fei smiled and said, "Not bad." Yu Lingyun was lost for words. "You call this SOS so? How could they not know how hard it was to get 3 stars? This was especially true for the people from these towns. If they wanted to get 3 stars, it would be like an army of thousands of men and horses trying to cross a single plank bridge. The 36 towns only send 100 people with 3 stars each time, and your team took 5. You're telling me this is SOS so?" After Luo Xiaobai and the others arrived, they saw that Yu Lingyun and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. It seemed to be asking, "What's going on? The genius classes have gathered together?" "Well, I'm sorry. Let's talk in private." Han Fei stepped on the ground, and a soundproof array was formed in an instant. These people were dumbfounded. Just now, they saw Han Fei fighting with Yu Lingyun, and now he had become a spirit gatherer, and an array master at that. A man asked, "Do you know what's going on? Are the 5 of them together?" The other man muttered, "It seems so. These 5 people are from the 5 major professions, and this one is a soul warrior and a spirit gatherer, both of which seem to be very strong. Will they refuse us?" The other woman frowned. "That's impossible, right? How can we just reject the people arranged by the higher-ups?" Yu Lingyun said, "It's not impossible. If the 5 of them form their own team and choose their own direction, it will be a team of 3 stars. I'm afraid they will grow even faster." For a moment, they were sweating profusely. "Don't. If they have 3 stars, they can't go together." In the soundproof array, Luo Xiaobai said, "I was arranged to be in the Tactical Command Center, saying that I will learn the security deployment and strategic command of the Scattered Stars Island. At the very beginning, I may need to learn all the dangerous places on the entire Scattered Stars Island. I also need to learn a lot of documents about the Scattered Stars Island so that I can use them at any time. I can take a day off every 5 days, go to the coastal battlefield for a day to study and investigate, and spend the other 3 days running and learning." Han Fei nodded. "Tactical Command Center? It sounds like a classy name." Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. "It doesn't seem dangerous at all. I was arranged to be in the island patrol team, which is a bit like Xiaobai. In the early stage, I may need to go around the entire Scattered Stars Island before deciding which area to patrol." Xia Xiaochan frowned and said, "I was arranged to be in a place called the Dart Hunter Legion, which is said to be mostly hunters who specialize in assassination. In the early stage, I may need to do a short training and then try to enter the surrounding shallow sea." Han Fei was taken aback. Enter the sea? In such a place like the Scattered Stars Island, entering the sea must represent great danger. Xia Xiaochan nodded. "Nothing. They said that I would try to go to the safe shallow sea in the early stage." Lu Kwang said, "I don't know why, but I was arranged to be in the so-called logistics division. They said that I would learn to make arrangements and deal with various affairs." Han Fei was surprised. "Logistics division?" Lu Kwang nodded. "It seems to be in charge of things. However, like Xiaobai, I only have 1 day off every 5 days, and I have to go to the coastal battlefield for a day to study and investigate." Xia Xiaochan said, "I have 2 days off, and the other 3 days seem to be in the coastal area." Zhang Xuanyu said, "I have 1 day off, and the other 4 days are spent patrolling. I don't know if it's in the coastal area." Everyone couldn't help but look at Han Fei. Han Fei said, "They said that they're going to be the captain of some advanced reconnaissance team. When do they rest? I haven't asked them yet." Then Han Fei stuck his head out of the soundproof array and looked at Yu Lingyun. "Miss you, what about my rest time?" Yu Lingyun said, 3 days on duty and 2 days off. If you're on duty continuously, the rest time can be changed or extended." Han Fei shrank his head. "Did you hear that? I also have 2 days off. That doesn't seem to be the problem. The problem is whether or not we should agree to it. We came as a team, but now we are obviously divided into 5 places. Luo Xiaobai said, "My suggestion is to split up. We are responsible for a lot of things and need to learn. There are some things that can't be taught in school. I learned tactics. Xiaochan should learn direct combat. Zhang Xuanyu may be the rescue type. Lu Renquang is the backup manager, and you are the frontline scout. If we go to different places now, then think about it. What will happen when we work together again in the future?" Zhang Xuanyu couldn't help but exclaim, "The combat power of the team will definitely be greatly increased." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "This is one of the reasons. More importantly, it can help us understand the Scattered Stars Island more deeply. Lu Renquang, you not only need to know the situation of the battle preparation, but I think you also need to inquire about the dangerous places inside and outside the Scattered Stars Island and divide them into degrees of difficulty. In the future, we will definitely go out and prepare in advance. We need to rely on you in this aspect." Lu Renquang took a breath and said, "Okay, no problem." Luo Xiaobai continued, "Zhang Xuanyu, you need to know the entire offshore of the Scattered Stars Island. Which places are more dangerous? Which places are safer? Which places are suitable for going to sea? You need to have a clear map of the Scattered Stars Island and its surroundings." Zhang Xuanyu grinned. "Leave it to me." With that, Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan, paused for a while, and said, "Xiaochan and Han Fei, because you are closest to the frontline battlefield, you don't need to do anything else, but you'd better improve your strength as soon as possible. It's best if you can become a hanging fisher as soon as possible." Xia Xiaochan nodded. "I can. I've been a peak-level dangling fisher for a long time." Han Fei thought for a while, grabbed the hexagon starfish from his shoulder, and patted it on Xia Xiaochan's shoulder. "You are closest to the frontline battlefield. Master Hexagon, you take care of it. Starfish are not suitable to be tools." Han Fei scoffed. "Shut up. You are a tool. Next time, I'll give you a spiritual stone as a reward." The hexagon starfish rolled its big eyes. "Then I want a high-quality spiritual stone." "Okay." Xia Xiaochan asked, "What about you?" Han Fei smiled and said, "I still need some time, and it's a reconnaissance mission, so it shouldn't be difficult. Now I'm mainly trying to find a way to break through to a peak-level dangling fisher first. Besides, I have to find a way to learn refining." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "As for me, I will spend a lot of time learning the history of the Scattered Stars Island and have a general plan first." Han Fei grinned. "That works too. Otherwise, the 5 of us will be at a loss when we just arrived. We don't even know what to do and where to go, which is not good either. However, do we have to wait for Senior Brother to pick us up?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Let's wait for a while. He should arrange for someone to come and find us." After a while, Han Fei removed the soundproof array. Yuling Yun and the others quickly asked, "How is it? How's the discussion going?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "No problem. We can go to different places. Please guide us, seniors." Yuling Yun immediately smiled. "Captain, let's go. I'll take you back to the team." Han Fei smiled. "No hurry, we still have to wait, Duong." While Han Fei and the others were talking, they saw a burly man carrying a huge door board rushing over from a distance. The burly man was nearly 2 meters tall and even bigger than a muscular man like Xiao Zhan. The bluish-black door board on his shoulder was more than 3 meters high and 2 meters wide. Han Fei and the others were speechless. Who the hell is this guy? Why is his style so unique? Why does he look so cool when he runs? He looked like an eyesore. Immediately, a man next to him said, "Why is the door-carrying marshal here?" 6th, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 605. Han Fei and the others were all stunned. Han Fei asked in a hurry, "Wait a moment. What's the guy's name?" The man said with a smile, "He's called Door-Carrying Marshal, because he carries such a huge door wherever he goes. He's kind of a famous person on the Scattered Stars Island." Yuling Yun said, "I've forgotten his real name. Everybody calls him Door-Carrying Marshal. We're all used to it. I think his name is Wang Da Shui, right?" Han Fei and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. Luo Xiaobai grinned and said, "If my guess is correct, we've been misinterpreting him all this time." Zhang Xuanyu turned around. "Can I not recognize him?" Han Fei's eyelids cramped. "You can't. Don't shout. Don't shout. The tall man ran to the lakeside and shouted loudly, Junior brother, junior sister, senior brother, I'm here. After a long days, he finally remembered something. Well, junior brother Han Fei, junior sister Luo Xiao Bai Xia. On the other side, Luren Quang was already waving his hands. Here, here, senior brother, here. Han Fei and the others almost wanted to kick Luren Quang to death. Can't you see that we've all turned around? Why are you still here? Ha ha. The door-carrying marshal ran close and pointed at Luren Quang. You must be Luren Quang. It's said that you're the fattest. Luren Quang. The door-carrying marshal patted Luren Quang's shoulder. Bam! Luren Quang was simply slapped to the ground. The door-carrying marshal said, well, he. Well, I accidentally used too much strength. Han Fei spoke to everyone telepathically. Oh no, this senior brother is probably an idiot. Luo Xiaobai said, don't criticize him. Everybody was looking at the door-carrying marshal. The man was tall and brawny, and he always had a smile on his face. His nose, lips, and eye bags all looked rather heavy. His big face had nothing to do with handsomeness. However, in general, for some reason, he didn't look that ugly. On the contrary, it gave others the feeling that he was very strong and had infinite strength. Luo Xiaobai slightly cupped her hands at the door-carrying marshal. Greetings, senior brother. All 5 of us are here. The door-carrying man seemed nervous to see a girl. The gate on his shoulder slid off, and one of its sharp horns fell between Luren Quang's legs. Boom! A pit was smashed on the ground by the door. Luren Quang was so scared that his face turned green. He hurriedly moved back, got up, and ran behind Han Fei. The door-holding marshal was grinning from ear to ear. He was fiddling with the corners of his clothes as if he was nervous. That, junior sister Xiaobai? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes, senior brother. So beautiful. Han Fei covered his head. It's over. She's really an idiot. The Thug Academy really didn't take the usual path. He didn't even need to ask about this senior brother's past to know that he was a weirdo. Xia Xiaochan asked, Senior brother, how heavy is your door? The door-holding marshal rubbed his head. Hey, why don't you try? It's not heavy. It's not heavy at all. Xia Xiaochan really tried to pick it up, but in the next moment, she blushed. Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei. I can't lift it. You do it. The door-holding marshal grinned. Xia Xiaochan, Han Fei, be honest. Are you in a relationship? Pooh! Han Fei was lost for words. Do I have to tell you that? Mumbling, Han Fei stepped forward. As soon as his hand touched the door, his expression changed. This material was like gold but not gold, like iron but not iron. It was cold and a little heavy. Immediately, Han Fei confirmed that the door couldn't be an ordinary object. Han Fei clenched his fist and exerted strength on his arm. Half of the door was lifted by Han Fei. What? Fist? He's lifted it. Many people focused their eyes on him. When he saw Han Fei pick up the door, his eyes almost popped out. He was only an advanced, dangling fisher. Yuling Yun and the others were already shocked enough when they learned that Han Fei and the others were the door-holding marshals, junior brothers and sisters. Now Han Fei actually picked up the big green door in front of them, which made them gasp subconsciously. Yuling Yun's first reaction was shock and then delight. This captain seemed to be very strong. Although he was only an advanced dangling fisher, he was definitely very strong considering the strength that he had shown so far. Even the door-carrying marshal's pupils constricted the moment he saw Han Fei lift the door. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up and he laughed out loud. As expected of my junior brother. In the next moment, Han Fei felt that his shoulder was heavy. He gathered all his strength and finally lifted the door on his shoulder. Han Fei tried to feel it. What the hell was this? He had secretly gathered all his strength, which was at least 500,000 kilograms, but he could barely hold it. Also, he almost couldn't hold it anymore. Bam! Han Fei hurried to drop the door and looked at the door-holding marshal in shock. Senior brother, how heavy is your door? The door-holding marshal grinned. It's not heavy. It's only 490,000 kilograms if the seal is not opened. Pooh! Everybody was lost for words. Many hanging fishers were speechless. Did he know that a regular peak-level hanging fisher's strength could only reach 1,000,000 kilograms? In the end, a single door of yours weighed 490,000 kilograms. How was he supposed to live? Were they going to fight or not? Also, Han Fei, you're just an advanced dangling fisher, and you're carrying a door that weighs 490,000 kilograms? Are you really a normal human being? Zhang Xuanyu smiled. Senior brother, what's your strength right now? Hee hee. Not high, not high. I'm only a peak-level hanging fisher. I'm still far from it. Then, everybody focused their eyes on the waist tag of this silly senior brother. There were 6 stars, which meant that this silly senior brother was of a higher level than everybody that Han Fei had met so far. The door-holding marshal said, Well, are you coming with me? I'll introduce you to the Scattered Stars Island. Yu Lingyun and the others all changed their expressions after hearing what the door-holding marshal said. Compared with a 6-star slaughterer, the 2-star ones like them had no right to speak at all. However, none of them moved. Luo Xiaobai said, Senior brother, we're going to accept the arrangement and go on an adventure on our own. Where do you usually live, senior brother? What's your position? What do you do? That way, it'll be easier for us to visit you after we get familiar with the Scattered Stars Island. Immediately, the 2-star receptionists were all relieved. They couldn't let a bunch of heavenly talents disappear just like that. Stunned for a moment, the door-holding marshal scratched his head and said, We live at the edge of the twisted jungle outside of the Empyrean waterfall. Not just me, you have a senior sister. Everybody looked at each other, and Han Fei said, Senior brother, we'll go to you later. Let's visit the Scattered Stars Island first. The door-holding marshal thought for a moment. Okay, keep your telepathic thoughts to yourself. Everybody. Yu Lingyun said, What the door-holding marshal means is that the waist tag can store a drop of the telepathic thoughts of whoever needs it. In the future, as long as the people who share telepathic thoughts are no more than 100 kilometers away from each other, they can talk directly with the waist tag. Han Fei was stunned. Is it really that amazing? Zhang Xuanyu asked, How do we do it? Yu Lingyun said, Telepathic thoughts are the power of the soul. As long as you scan the waist tag with your soul power, you'll leave a mark. Then, you'll be able to talk to each other. Han Fei was immediately shocked. Wasn't this just a phone call or a message? It was so amazing that he almost couldn't wrap his head around it. Immediately, everybody sensed a flash of murderous aura, and the door-holding marshal said, Okay, I've left a mark for you. You can leave one too. The so-called telepathic thoughts were just a title. In fact, everybody just scanned each other's waist tag with their spiritual power and left a mark on each other's waist tag. Han Fei quickly left a mark and asked, Senior brother, we've talked for a long time. What's your name? The door-holding marshal replied, I'm Marshall. Marshall Wong. Han Fei secretly sighed. Sure enough, it was an undistinctive name. If it weren't for this silly senior brother who carried this door around every day, nobody would have remembered him. Luo Xiaobai said, Senior brother, okay, shall we talk another day? Oh, okay, then remember to come to me if you need anything. My teacher asked me to look after you, so feel free to come to me if you need anything. I'm usually here except when I go to sea. They had made a decision during the discussion just now. At this moment, it was useless to follow Wang Dashuai. They couldn't really ask Wang Dashuai to lead the 5 of them to a feast, could they? Wang Dashuai seemed to appreciate Han Fei's decision, so he simply watched the door run away. After bidding farewell to Wang Dashuai, Han Fei and the others went their separate ways for now. Han Fei, on the other hand, followed Yu Lingyun to the scout squad on the skeleton shore. On the way, Han Fei asked, Is the name door-holding marshal very famous on the Scattered Stars Island? 7th update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 606. Yu Lingyun nodded. Of course. The door-carrying marshal is indeed quite a character. Han Fei just wanted to roll his eyes. Carrying a big green door every day, how could he not have a personality? On the way, Yu Lingyun told Han Fei about the situation around the camp. The skeleton shore was located in the westernmost corner of the Scattered Stars Island. It was a beach that protruded into the sea. It was said that when this place was first discovered, There were skeletons everywhere on the beach, hence the name. This skeleton shore was not big. It only occupied the west side of the shore for about 100 miles, and it was connected to the Hungduan mountain range. The advanced recon team's campsite was on the outskirts of the Hungduan mountain range. Han Fei mumbled, "The skeleton shore? Skeleton? Don't tell me there's something horrifying about it." Yuling nodded. On this island, the skeleton shore is also known as a corner of hell. After all, it was more than 30 kilometers into the sea. Of course, the other coasts aren't as safe as the skeleton coast. In fact, they might even be more dangerous. In fact, Han Fei was not afraid of danger, because danger often meant opportunity. Otherwise, why would so many people come to the unknown place every year? On the way, to Han Fei's surprise, there were many ancient shipwrecks on the coast. Among them, many of the remains had turned into fossils. One could imagine how long the history of this island was. Yun said, "The dangers of the skeleton shore mainly come from 4 places." Han Fei was surprised. "Huh? Why is there so much danger in this small stretch of beach?" Yun's eyes slightly shivered, and the scar that penetrated the corner of her eye wrinkled a little, making her look rather aggressive. She said, "There are dangers that come from under the beach, from the sea on 3 sides, from the strange birds in the sky, and from within the Hungduan mountain range. Because there are too many places where danger could erupt, we need to set up special scouts in the skeleton shore and the surrounding areas." "Birds are dangerous too?" Yun grinned. "Of course, the giant birds in the transverse mountain all hunt in the sea. This is something that many hanging fishers dare not do." "Do you think they're dangerous?" "Hanging fishers dare not enter the sea?" Yun nodded. "Of course. The ocean far from the coastline is full of dangers. The main reason why hanging fishers were called hanging fishers was that they only dared to attack in the sky. But hidden fishers are different. They have the ability to dive into the deep sea and fight sea demons head-on." "Sea monsters?" Yun put on a cold smile. "Yes, inferior manfish, red demons, half-mermaids, and behemoths are all sea demons. Among them, the inferior manfish are the easiest to deal with. Starting from the red demons, they are already extremely dangerous." Han Fei secretly took a breath. If that was the case, then everything made sense. It turned out that creatures like the inferior mermen weren't actually that rare. It was just that the unknown lands were isolated from the floating islands, so no one knew about them. Chirp, chirp. Suddenly, he heard the cries of birds in the sky, and a flock of hundreds of big birds flew across the sky. Han Fei immediately understood that birds all appeared in flocks, and each of them was strong, so they became one of the dangers. As for why there were no birds on the floating islands, the reason was very simple. It is easy for you to tame 1 or 2 birds. If you domesticated a flock of birds and placed them on levitating island, their offspring would probably revert to their ancestral roots. At this time, if these birds didn't go to the sea to fish but went to the villages to catch people, they would be in big trouble. All the way to the west, when the fishing boat flew, several people glanced at it, and people flew into the sky to investigate from time to time. Yun said, "Unless there are some special circumstances, it is not advisable to fly too fast on the island, or it will easily cause unnecessary misunderstandings." Half an hour later, from an altitude of more than 200 meters, Han Fei saw a beach that protruded into the sea from a distance. In the offshore, there were stacked reefs. Further inside, it was the coast that had just surfaced. Outside the reef, there was a tall watchtower, and someone was on duty on the tower. Yun said, "There is such a watchtower every 10 kilometers. Once something happens, it will immediately release red flames to warn people." Han Fei keenly sensed something. In fact, the skeleton shore should protrude more than 30 kilometers into the sea, right? How far will it recede when the tide ebbs? The corners of Yun's mouth curled up. After the tide ebbs, it will extend back twice as far, and it will recede slowly. Every day, the ebb time may be slightly different. But when the tide ebbs, it is also a good time to earn points. There will be a lot of creatures on the beach, and some of them can be worth some points. As she spoke, Yu Lingyun controlled the fishing boat and swept to the edge of a cliff about 30 meters high. On the other side of the cliff was a vast forest. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "The Scattered Stars Island is only so big. Hasn't this mountain range been explored yet?" Yu Lingyun slightly shook her head. "Not all of them. Except for a few creatures who don't know how to swim, most of them are very good at it. As long as we human beings can't occupy every corner, there will definitely be a place for them. Therefore, for a long time, we human beings have been in a state of balance with these creatures. Besides, it is said that a great disaster is lurking inside the Transverse Mountain. Therefore, generally, if there are no special circumstances, not many people will go inside the Transverse Mountain. Look, we live here at the periphery." As she spoke, Yu Lingyun's fishing boat landed. It was less than 3,000 meters from the edge of the cliff, which was covered by tall trees. At this moment, Han Fei saw rows of wooden buildings, and some people were barbecuing in the open space in the forest. It seemed that they only sprinkled some salt and didn't add any other seasoning. Yu Lingyun said, "They're all bored guys who are on vacation and want to kill time with some seafood. We'll welcome you tonight. Let's eat as much as we want." Han Fei was rather lost for words. Was that something a girl would say? She sounded even more heroic than a man. Han Fei looked around and saw people moving around. He even heard snores coming from some of the houses. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "How many people are stationed around here?" Yu Lingyun said, "The 8th Battalion under the command of the 3rd Column is all stationed here. At first, there were 100 squads, but now there are only 66 squads left." Han Fei was surprised. 34 squads have died. Yu Lingyun explained, "Actually, some of the squads have died. Later, after they were regrouped, there's still 66 squads. However, 12 of them are still short of members. If they are reorganized, there'll be fewer squads." Han Fei asked in surprise, "Is there no new blood?" Yu Lingyun looked at Han Fei. "There is. That's you. It's said that the skeleton shore has 1/8 spots. That is to say, if everything goes well, 8 newcomers will come to report. You're the first one." While Han Fei was learning about the situation with Yu Lingyun, Han Fei suddenly tilted his head, and a white shadow flew past his ear. Han Fei looked back, only to see that it was a clamshell that had been eaten up. The person who threw the shell was on a tree. Han Fei raised his head and looked very calm. Yu Lingyun roared angrily, "Zhao Ersan, you son of a b****, get down here. I'll break your legs." The guy who was called Zhao Ersan grinned and said, "Yu Lingyun, is this your new captain? Is there no one else in the 36 towns? Or is it that everyone can get a 3-star rank and be a captain?" Alarmed by the commotion, someone not far away came over to watch the commotion and shouted, "Oh, not bad. An advanced dangling fisher is the captain. Don't get beaten too badly. I'll bet a high-quality pearl that this boy won't last more than half an hour before he runs out crying and shouting that he wants to change places." Ha ha. The group of people burst into laughter. Han Fei turned his head and looked at these people. What kind of people are they? He was so bored that all he could do was spout flowery words. Han Fei couldn't help but recall his life as a sailor. He used to curse, gamble, fight, drink, and make trouble every day. Those were too common, and it was a way for these people to relieve their stress. However, even if they wanted to relieve their stress, they had to choose the right targets. There was no way Han Fei was going to swallow this insult. To win these people's respect, it was useless to keep a low profile. Fist were the hard way. When Han Fei was about to take action, he heard someone shout, "Yu Lingyun, why don't you take your new captain to fight? The 37th squad and the 31st squad are starting again. They're betting." Yu Lingyun's face changed, and she looked at Han Fei and said, "Let's go." At the edge of the Transverse Mountain, a large area had been hollowed out. It was the daily training ground. At this moment, there was a hubbub of noise, and a group of people were shouting, "Gu Daliang, come on. You're going to lose if this goes on." "Daliang, are you upset that Yu Lingyun is not here?" A short girl roared, "Daliang, come on. Smash him. Smash him to death." Someone laughed. "Wu Xiao Xiao, why don't you do it? Don't just shout." Wu Xiao Xiao's eyes almost spurted fire. "I'll do it. Daliang, come down and let me do it." Bam! In the field, a young brawny man was thrown to the ground. He was entangled by spiritual plants and couldn't move at all. The male manipulator mocked, Gu Daliang, your 37th squad is really hopeless. Yu Ling Yun has been holding the fort ever since your captain perished. Look at you. What's the use of such a big man? The brawny young man on the ground roared. Again, the manipulator said, you'll still lose even if you do it 10 more times. Besides, do you still have money? Your 37th squad basically ran out of weapons in the last battle, didn't they? Gu Daliang roared. If I lose again, I'll give you my shield. Someone nearby laughed. Dongzi, it's a waste not to take it. It's a high-quality spiritual weapon anyway. You can make a fortune from it. The manipulator who was called Dongzi grinned. Fine. If you want another match, let's have another one. I don't want your shield, in case other people blame me for robbing it when you perish in the future. If you lose, your 37th squad will take the reconnaissance mission of the 31st squad tomorrow. How's that sound? Next to him, Wu Xiaoxiao said angrily, Liang Dong, don't be outrageous. You're just taking advantage of Daliang's lack of weapons. Otherwise, how can a manipulator be so arrogant in front of an armorist? Gu Daliang spat and said, Xiao Xiao, don't worry. I'll definitely win this time. Right when they were about to begin, a voice came over. Hey, how about I compete with you? Everybody looked back, only to see Yu Ling Yun running over with an advanced dangling fisher. It was a man's voice that just spoke. So, it was the advanced dangling fisher who shouted, Ha ha! In an instant, a large group of people burst into laughter. Some of them almost fell to the ground in laughter. 8. Asking for votes. End of this chapter.